In the kingdom, the instant a royal turns 13, the goddess appears and bestows a gift. A young royal prepares to claim her long-awaited gift, certain today will be her moment, but when the ritual ends she finds nothing, no gift arrived, smashing every expectation. Within Fornia's kingdom, the story ignites. Adult Forian, the third prince, trains relentlessly with another young woman, eyes blazing and every muscle taut as he parries attack after attack with his staff. Layla Orstein, Theodulf's personal maid, shoves the prince during training and snaps that he's only backing away and blocking, keep living on defense, and a deadly opening will yawn wide. Finally, Layla lands a crushing blow on Theodulf, proving she has the upper hand in the fight. Theodulf halts the training and proclaims Layla amazing, rattling off her credentials: once an S-rank adventurer, a blade-wielding master, a kitchen ace, a flawless homemaker, impeccably polite and utterly beautiful. Layla thanks him with a small, grateful smile and admits she can't even cast a spell, humility shining in her eyes. Meet Niels Forian, the kingdom of Fornia's second prince. He storms in and taunts the adult, sneering at his return to sword training despite zero talent, and Niels snarls, "Why grind like this when every royal is handed a goddess's gift at 13? Niels unleashes a dazzling display of magic, sneers at Theodulf, and taunts that all his effort is wasted when you can just get powers as incredible as his. Niels even goads him, sneering that Theodulf's coming gift will be worthless, since gifts always mirror a person's personality. Neil goads Fyodorov until his jaw tightens, but Layla rushes in to lift his spirits and declares she believes he'll receive a wonderful gift at the ceremony. Confidence crackled in Theodore as he thanked Layla and proclaimed he'd be handed an incredible gift that night. At the nighttime ceremony, gasps ripped through the crowd when they learned Prince Theodulf received no gift from the goddess. He froze, shock knocking the wind out of him. Devastation tore through him when no gift arrived. The crowd recoiled, gaping and whispering that maybe he's not really royalty. This had never happened before. Niels erupted in laughter. Their father's scolding shut them down and forced an apology from their lips. King Gauss, the adult's father, glares with cold disappointment as his son stands there empty-handed, giftless. He vows he won't welcome anyone the castle's goddess has cast out. Niels' eyes flash as he pushes an old idea he'd been saving into action, crowing it's perfect for someone with no talent. The king anoints the adult lord of the land of death, a savage wasteland seething with monsters and poisoned air, where nothing grows and no human can survive. Shock ripped through him. He spun on his father and demanded answers. He knows taking that post would condemn him to exile. Rage boiled in the king as he barked an order at the adult for their glaring lack of talent. He snatched up his belongings and shot straight for the land of death. Niels sneered, tossing a hollow good luck at Theodulf. He proclaims he'll seize the crown as his brother fights tooth and nail to survive in the land of death. Theodulf storms out of the castle the next day, while Niels howls with laughter at the spectacle. Theodulf slips out of the royal capital alone, no father or brother at his side, and only his servants and a handful of citizens he'd befriended line the road to bid him farewell. Regret closet him for never saying goodbye to Layla, hollowing him out and leaving him utterly alone. The adult froze, eyes wide, when Layla appeared inside the carriage. She vows to stay wherever he goes, loyalty blazing in her eyes. Theodulf snaps, insisting only he was sent. Layla declares she trusts him, pledging that together they'll overcome anything. Layla swears she's his personal maid, vowing to march with him into hell's fires and through the gates of the demon kingdom. She plants herself at his side and vows to follow him to whatever horizon awaits. Doubt knots his throat, but Theodulf forces the question from trembling lips. Layla steels herself, nods, and declares that's exactly what she wants. Theodore thanked her, while Layla's thoughts fizzed with delight at being alone with him. The journey to the land of death drags on for days, forcing them to swap carriages again and again, and Theodulf's nerves coil at the destination, but Layla at his side keeps him steady. He can't stop replaying it, desperate to know why he never got a gift. Cold suspicion seizes Theodulf. Maybe not being from this world is why he never received a gift, and memories of his previous life as a simple worker in Japan rush back. He burned the midnight oil every single day and dragged the same grind home, stuck in a soul-crushing routine, and Theodore's memories of his past life surged back. Enslaved by a brutal grind, he dragged through every day bone-tired, even though back in school he lived for games. He dove headfirst into the job, fun vanished, fatigue fogged his eyes, and he collapsed from sheer overwork. After collapsing, an adult stumbles into a strange, shimmering place and comes face to face with the goddess Vesta, who smiles and ushers him into the realm of the gods. He drops the bomb. He died in his original world. Vesta's voice cracked through the silence. The adult had died, and she decreed he'd be reincarnated in another world. She snapped her mouth shut, declaring the gods had their reasons and demanding he stop asking complicated questions. The goddess steps forward and vows to bestow Theodulf a power like no other. Standing on the edge of a brand new life, he begged for the power of creation, anything practical that would keep him alive in this strange, unknown world. He begs the goddess for creation powers based on a game he adored as a kid. The moment she suddenly remembers that game, she bestows the power on him. A cold jolt hit Theodulf. Reborn as a prince, he'd never had the chance to unleash this power, and he'd wiped it from his memory. That's why he was convinced no gift had reached him. Layla jolts Theodulf awake from her lap, and he jolts, blurts a startled apology, and Layla grins, saying he simply tumbled there all by himself. The coachman barked about the delay. Theodulf bristled that they hadn't woken him earlier, and Layla smirked that she'd lingered to watch him sleep for a while. Impatience flared in the coachman. Theodulf and Layla finally arrive in the land of death, stepping into an arid, lifeless, desolate wasteland that obliterates any doubt about the region's terrifying reputation. They stare at the hostile night and realize they'll have to sleep out in the open. Layla urges they cling together for warmth, and Theodulf scoffs that a hug won't cut it. He declares they must build a house, seizing the perfect chance to unleash his creation power with just the two of them. The adult resolves to unleash his creation power, ignited by the game he loved. He asks Layla to cut down some nearby trees. She snaps into action, grabs an axe, and fells trunks with practiced, eager precision. Layla slices down tree after tree with effortless precision, her ex-adventurer skill on full display, and Theodulf beams his thanks, vowing to finally put his creation power to work by turning that timber into a house. After hauling wood and stones shoulder to shoulder with Layla, Theodulf straightened, met her eyes, and said, "Leave the rest to me." He cracked his knuckles, grinned like he owned the world, and told Layla to just watch. He knew he could build it alone. He remembers the goddess granting him the power of creation, yet he's never dared conjure anything as massive as a house. He rips open the ability, matter folds to his command, he reads its essence, and he sculpts anything his mind imagines into reality. Theodulf channels his power and conjures a massive house out of thin air in an instant. Layla's eyes go wide, stunned by the result, while Theodulf throws his arms up and shouts that it worked. Layla's breath catches. She realizes Theodulf's power is the very gift he couldn't summon at the ceremony. Tears welling, she lunged into the adult's arms and clung to him, voice cracking as she said she'd always found it strange that he never got a gift. Embarrassment flooded them, but they shoved it aside, flung the door open, and ushered Layla into the new house. Theodulf and Layla burst inside and froze, jaws dropping at a cozy, rock-solid interior that felt impossible for a place built only from wood and stone. Layla's eyes lit up and she squealed, a fully equipped kitchen right here. When his power sputters for lack of materials, Theodulf rips off his clothes and sacrifices them, molding the fabric into a makeshift bed. He whoops, collapsing into a warm, comfortable bed and savoring sleep like a hard-won victory. Theodulf freezes when he sees Layla in a nightgown. She whispers it's late and she wants to sleep, and he reddens, scrambling to promise he'll prepare another bed for her. Layla demands they sleep in the same bed. She'll guard Theodulf all night, press close to soak up his warmth, and splitting the room makes no sense. The adult's cheeks flare with embarrassment as he nods in reluctant agreement, while Layla stands ice calm, her eyes burning with unbreakable resolve. The adult freezes, cheeks burning, every move clumsy as embarrassment claws at them. His pulse spiked when Layla curled up inches from him in bed, and she insisted it was just his imagination. Layla clings to his side as panic coils tighter in his chest. Cheeks burning, Theodulf grudgingly agrees to sleep beside Layla, and a cold truth hits him. He only survived the first day in the land of death. Fueled by Layla and the raw fire of his creation gift, the adult feels unstoppable. With her by his side, he can face any challenge. In the dead of night, strange noises jolt Theodulf and Layla awake. Theodulf bolts upright, determined to investigate, but Layla grabs his sleeve and refuses to let him go alone because the house is unsafe. They burst into the living room and stop cold. Something massive and impossibly strange sprawls in the middle of the house. A hulking minotaur suddenly materializes inside the house, roaring as it lunges at Theodulf and Layla. Fear floods the adult, paralyzing him for a beat before instinct snaps him into action. He bolts, sprinting away from the threat. Taylor hurled herself between the charging minotaur and the adult, shielding him from the attack and barking, "Stay back." Layla snaps, furious the monster's wrecking her honeymoon with Prince Theo, yanks up a weapon and charges. Theo's heart clenches watching her face the beast, but he forces himself to remember she's She's fought deadly monsters before and is certain she can vanquish the Minotaur. He clamps down on the urge to jump in, wondering if he should just let her charge every time a monster appears. Theo bursts into action to shield Layla from the Minotaur, and Layla gapes, stunned to watch him gear up to face the beast himself, repurposing the house's scraps into weapons and traps. Theo rips the house apart with his creation power, bending wood and stone into something new while the Minotaur watches, locked and silent. He locks his focus. Anything that already exists can be conjured if he paints it in his mind with brutal clarity and unleashes relentless creativity. CO unleashes his creation power, warping the raw materials into a towering battle axe that thunders to life. He's ready to face the Minotaur. The Minotaur barrels forward. Theo knows his gift creates, not fights like Neil's, but he snatches the towering axe and rigs it into a crushing trap. He lures the Minotaur into a trap and crushes it, proving that, lacking an offensive gift, he can win with sheer, improvisational creativity. Layla watches, surprise ripping through her, as relief crashes in like a tide. Theo threw his arms skyward and whooped as the Minotaur fell, relief crashing through him now that it was finally over. He still remembers the day they banished him from the capital. He had no idea what he'd do next. Layla bolts to Theo. She launches herself at him, hugging him breathlessly and gushing that he was amazing. Theo freezes, stunned by her reaction, but he realizes a fire's lit inside him. Creating in this world thrills him, because with the right materials he can forge anything, just like in the game he used to play. Theo tells Layla he's finally found something he wants to do, realizes it won't be as easy as in the game, and decides to seize his power and charge forward. Even as brutal challenges close in on him, Theo slams his will into the cursed soil, pouring his power until the land of death shudders and begins to bloom again. Layla throws her support behind the decision and explodes with a grin, racing over to congratulate him on the goal. He whoops, throws his arms up in giddy triumph, and calls out to be set down. Theo shot awake, excitement crackling through him on his first morning in the land of death, the jagged frontier of the kingdom of Fornia. He stands before the house he built yesterday, breath hitching as he wonders what he'll tackle next, ready to charge into the new day. Theo plunges his fork into the dish Layla prepared and takes a bold bite. Theo takes a bite and proclaims it delicious. Astonished, she turned meager castle rations into a proper feast. Layla apologizes it's not as refined as the castle food, but Theo beams, insists it's amazing, and praises her skill. Layla shoves her meager portion at Theo, panic gnawing at her over their dwindling food. Theo yanks it back, fierce, insisting she must eat too. Seeing the rations dangerously low, they resolve to build a farm to guarantee food for the future, and Layla bursts into excited agreement. Theo vows to end the food crisis by creating fields and sowing crops. Theo and Layla burst into the field, fired up and ready to carve a farm out of the earth. They discover the ground is poisoned and infertile. Layla reveals the land was ravaged by a past disaster and choked with toxic air. The kingdom launched repeated restoration attempts that all failed, yet Theo refuses to give up and vows to try everything to make it live again. Leo unleashes his crafting power and conjures. They snatched their own hose and blasted the parched soil, kicking off the land's preparation. He snatches the gift, sees it's perfect for this situation, and excitement surges as he imagines transforming the place. Theo and Layla push themselves to the limit, sweating and straining over every inch of the land. They unleash the hose to churn the soil, then scatter fertilizer and prime the field, all hoping the crops will grow. The sun sets on a hard-earned victory as Theo collapses, breath ragged and bones burning, utterly spent from a day of relentless farm work. The crushing reality of rural life hit him. Scraping by for food was only the beginning. He scrambles to find clean water. The local supply is tainted, so they must ration the meager stash they carried, while Layla tends to him and they brace for the dangers ahead, especially monster attacks. Theo's breath catches as problems pile up relentlessly, each one stacking higher than the last, and feels the land of death's crushing weight slam down on their shoulders. He'd braced for trouble but still buckled under the weight. He even suggested Layla sleep in a separate bed, yet his mind raced for ways they could solve this together. Layla flopped onto her pillow and was out cold before the duvet even settled. Realization hits Theo like a punch. He can't blame Layla. She woke earlier than him, cooked for him, and toiled even harder on the farm all day. Theo's heart drops as he watches Layla shoulder everything while he did almost nothing, leaving him feeling utterly useless there. Determination surged through him. He vowed to work harder than ever. Theo replays his weak effort, steels himself, and vows to double his grind tomorrow. When sleep drags him under, he's yanked into the goddess's dream as she whispers his old name, Mashima. He jolts, instantly remembering he's Theodolph now. Theo's sleep shatters as the goddess storms back into his dreams. Terror rips through him as he realizes he's died, again. The goddess greets him with a playful laugh, reveals she plucked his consciousness into this realm, and declares he's very much alive. The goddess dropped to her knees, voice cracking as she told Theo it was her fault. She couldn't give him a gift at 13. Because he already carried the autocraft ability, no second gift could touch him, and that refusal doomed him to exile. She begs forgiveness again, claiming it's all her fault, and warns that if she gave a human more than one gift, their heart would explode, and fluids would gush from every hole in their body. Theo cuts in, voice shaking with joy, declaring he's overflowing with gratitude for having. They rip open a jaw-dropping gift, adrenaline exploding through their veins. A wave of feeling crashed through the goddess, and she made her choice. She bolts toward Theo, desperate to apologize with a gift, fingers scrambling as she hunts for it. She thrusts a gleaming bar into his hand as an apology, and the video reels, stammering, "What is that?" The goddess thrusts the god medal into Theo's hands, a crackling relic pulsing with the god's power. She bans the relic from the mortal world, then rips up her own rule and presses it into his hands because he's special to her, and Theo's jaw drops at the impossible value of what he's been given. The goddess bestows a surprise bonus, and leaning in with a conspiratorial smile, whispers that he's her favorite. The goddess leans in and plants a sudden kiss on Theo's cheek. He freezes, eyes wide with shock. She flashes a radiant smile, wishes him luck, vows she'll always root for him, and urges him to use the goddess's blessing well. Theo's face flames crimson with embarrassment. Theo jolts awake, screaming the goddess's name into the dark, convinced it had all been a dream. He goes silent, cheeks burning as the memory hits. He still can't believe the strange dream he had. Layla snaps awake, peels back the blanket, and locks eyes on Theo. She flinched as a strange, hard object pressed under her fingers and snapped, "What is that?" Face burning, he frantically blurts that it's not what she thinks, just a normal bodily reaction, and he insists he means no harm. Layla drops the subject like a hot coal, pushing Theo into crimson embarrassment. He bolts awake, stares at a strange object in his bed, and blurts, "What is that?" Layla admits she doesn't know either. Then her eyes go wide as she realizes it's a gift from the goddess. Theo insists it wasn't a dream, names it God Metal, and thanks the goddess. Then the soul problem slams back into his mind, and Layla rushes to talk to him even though he just woke up. Theo and Layla burst out of the house and froze. The soil was dry again. Theo's jaw drops. At first he wonders if the soil dried up overnight, then the truth slams him. This land was barren from the start. No matter how he toils and tills, nothing will grow, and despair clenches his chest when he realizes he can't farm here. Layla refuses to quit. She rallies everyone to plow the soil again, swap the fertilizer, try every option, and run tests to see which plants will actually take root. Silence clamps down on Theo. Convinced he's useless there, he grits his teeth and forces himself to push harder. Theo tells Layla to rest. She'd been working all day, and his grin ignites as he practically vibrates with excitement to start over. Layla snaps that she didn't master the blade just to show off. Leo glares at the plow. Mindless tilling won't help. They need the perfect fertilizer, and he aches to understand every secret the soil holds. Theo gapes as a crackling magical window spills soil data. It's from the land of death, slapped with an E rating and devastated, air laced with toxins so no plant can take root. Only a divine blessing can cleanse it. Layla's sight cuts out, and confusion lashes through her, while Theo's eyes snap wide with the chilling realization that only he can see this information. Theo realizes a magical window lays bare the soil's every secret, grains, layers, moisture like a living map, but his fingers slide through the vision and never touch it. Seeing the land will only yield crops once he purifies the soil with a divine blessing, Theo is convinced it's the goddess's power and erupts into grateful cheers, thrilled at how perfectly convenient the ability is. It hits Theo like lightning. The god metal can cleanse the contaminated soil, and the goddess had foreseen this. She armed him with the analysis, the skill, and that very metal. Steel in his gaze, Theo ignites his auto-craft power and launches the plan into motion. Theo splintered the wood in one savage strike and yanked the god metal into his grasp. Determined to fuse them, he fires up auto-craft again, priming it to forge a creation from the two materials and begin purifying the soil. Theo finishes the creation, hoists his divine hoe like a banner, pride burning in his chest, and with a confident smile prepares to purge the contaminated land with his new power. Theo rammed the divine hoe into the soil with unshakable confidence and dared them to watch. A blinding flash tore through the air, jolting Layla after the light. Nothing had changed. Baffled, Theo kneels and probes the cracked earth, which stays dry and barren, doubt surging through him as he misses a faint, whispering stir beginning beneath his feet. Theo crouches, retests the soil, and his jaw drops. The land has been purified. The title Divine Soil erupts onto the screen in flawless, jaw-dropping quality. His eyes sparkled with joy and gratitude. Moved, he whispered a trembling, heartfelt yes. Theo explodes into triumphant whoops, punching the air the moment he sees it worked. He slammed his enchanted hoe into the earth, purging the blight from the soil, and erupted, "We can farm this now." As Layla, stunned and bursting with pride, sprinted over, hugged him tight and gasped, "My Prince Theo." Theo, raw with emotion, hurled himself into Layla's arms and crushed her in a fierce, desperate hug. Layla reels in surprise while a third onlooker stands rooted, jaw dropped that he's hugging so eagerly. Theo, still buzzing with excitement, proclaimed it was all thanks to Layla and the goddess. Left speechless, cheeks aflame and utterly confused, Layla leapt forward to truly help for the first time, and with tears in her eyes she thanked him. Theo, utterly spent from the effort, gasps that he's about to overheat and then collapses into her arms. A panel flashes their achievement. The newly gained fields gleam, proof the land's purification. Worried, Layla scoops him up and carries him to bed, stepping into the caretaker role. Vesta melts into the bathtub, a slow sigh slipping free as she reaches out, fingers stretching toward the pulsing magic orb. A sharp voice slices the quiet. Watching Theo again, Vesta doesn't deny it. She's transfixed by his reflection in the orb, her care reaching him even from afar. Bathing the goddesses chatter about Theo, one gushes over the boy, amazed he bent god metal into a crude hoe, the other is assing. He admits he still can't match the hero she chose, and the conversation explodes when someone teases her, calling her a lolicon for always picking cute girls as heroines, while she scrambles to insist it's just a coincidence. Watching the mortal world, one goddess startles at Theo and declares he deserves attention. He's tied to the hero she chose. Another goddess beams and proudly calls herself a full-on Theo stan. The rival, bristling, vows she won't miss a single thing he does anymore. Back in the human world, Theo crackles with excitement, while a celestial figure gazes down with warm affection, sending a whispered good luck blessing and swearing to root for him forever. Last night, Theo tore through the kingdom's old records on their failed reclamations. They said the toxic air only tainted the surface while the deep underground stayed safe, so Theo sprang into action, determination burning in his veins. He pictures every move to make the land useful, flips his ability on with iron confidence, and launches a new plan. Theo channels his autocraft, and a cold, crystal-clear spring erupts from underground, perfect for drinking. He unveils the results with a triumphant cry, clean drinking water for everyone and one giant step toward transforming the place. Layla and Theo erupt into triumphant cheers the moment they snag water. They think all that's left is to till the soil, sow the seeds, and water it all, then doubt crashes in. Will it really be that easy? After hours of grueling tilling, Theo's strength snaps. He collapses into the dirt and croaks, "I can't take it anymore." Layla lunges for the hoe to keep working, but Theo yanks it away and orders her to rest. She already fainted from overexertion. Layla snaps to attention and obeys. Theo's words hit like a punch. He's lived the hell of burning out from working too much. Layla snapped that a tractor would turn this slog into a breeze, but they didn't have the parts to build one. She stares at the mountain of chores, pulse racing, wondering how long it'll take to do it all alone. Theo snaps, "Bring people in or put the cattle to work." They don't even know where to round up cattle. The place is so cut off that hauling anything in from the outside is almost impossible. Layla smirks and tosses out a wild joke about creating people with magic, and Theo's face hardens as he snaps, "That's wrong." She shrugs it off as a joke, but Theo isn't laughing in the end. Layla hatches another wild idea, and Theo collapses, utterly spent by her crazy plans. Layla vows she'll conjure what's missing and assures him she won't create any living beings, no humans, no cattle. Her pulse spikes as she pictures something that can do any job and crowns it everyone's dream. For that, she dropped a bombshell. She'd need mountains of earth and stone, and Theo's jaw hit the floor. Reality crashes into Layla. She needs magicite, the magic stone harvested from monsters, to complete the materials. A memory slams her. They'd already snatched one of those in the last battle. Meanwhile, the maid spirals into a frantic panic, convinced she's failed. They overcompensate, but Theo cuts them off. With all the materials gathered, Layla steels herself and dives into crafting exactly what she needs. Layla channels her rare gift and sculpts a towering earth and stone golem that obeys any command, a power only alchemists were meant to wield. She pushes through, her power carrying her every step. Layla ignites her power, completing the stone creature's birth as it snaps into form and looms before them. Theo gapes, awestruck by the result, while Layla erupts in giddy triumph at the summoning's success. whooping as she barks an order that sends the newborn golem into the field to work. The golem suddenly charges straight at her, and panic surges. Did creating it just become her worst mistake? The golem charges toward Layla, sweeps her up into its massive stone arms, and everyone gasps in disbelief. Fear shatters as she realizes the creature means no harm. The maid misreads the scene and barrels in. They feared the golem was attacking Theo, yet it kept lavishing him with strange, tender affection, and the maid seethed with jealous fury. She beams at her creation, declares it a success, and barks, "Golem, grab the hoe and start turning the soil." At Layla's command, the golem thundered to life. They launch into the soil, tilling with every ounce of strength and carving a furious path across the field, and Layla watches, breathless and wide-eyed at the result. They gaped at the creature's lightning-fast efficiency. With the golem's help, they ripped through the tilling in no time, and by afternoon, they drove seeds into the soil and drenched every row. Layla practically crackled with excitement about the months ahead, and Theo grinned, "If all goes well, we'll finally end the food supply crisis." At dawn the next day, Lila, Theo, and the maid emerged. They gaped as the fields erupted into full growth. The crops were harvest-ready, and they couldn't fathom how everything had finished in a heartbeat. The beds teemed with ripe vegetables, piled high, and Layla sensed the blessed soil would coax them to grow even out of season. They stand stunned, an entire harvest finished in a single day, facing fields of towering, thriving crops. She summons the golem and the maid, muscles coiled, ready to execute the next step. Harvest finished, Layla, Theo, and the maids burst into celebration, their cheers ringing out as the basket brims with fresh, healthy vegetables. They explode into thunderous cheers, throwing their arms up and shouting that the food supply problem is officially solved. Layla darts forward, eager to taste the vegetables that shot up overnight from the blessed soil, but she swears she'll test them for poison first. The analysis roars that this tomato is nutrient-packed and downright delicious even plain. She lifts it and sinks her teeth into it. Layla stands stunned as the taste detonates across her tongue. Flavor detonates in her mouth. Umami and sweetness hit so hard it could pass for meat. She's stunned by the juiciness and wonders if it's even a vegetable. Layla thrusts the tomato into the maid's hand, beaming, "Trust me, this is insanely delicious." And when the maid bites, her eyes snap wide as the flavor hits and she gasps, "It's too good." Layla grinned and declared, "If it's this amazing raw, cooked will blow us away." And the maid fell into a thoughtful hush before her eyes snapped alive with excited possibilities. The maid's face lights up as she prepares Layla's first homegrown vegetables, treating every chop and simmer like a sacred rite. She pours fierce dedication and real feeling into the cooking, and Layla watches, teasing that she's taking it too seriously, yet still thanks her for the meal. The maid whips up a complete feast from freshly picked vegetables, velvety corn and chickpea soup, golden crispy vegetable tempura, steamed vegetables glazed in miso, and hearty cabbage rolls. A collective gasp meets the feast's dazzling sight, and everyone dives in with giddy excitement. The first bite catapults Layla and the maid into ecstasy. They hover in pure bliss among the vegetables, faces lighting up as flavors explode. The joy is obvious, every bite is sublime, and Layla and the maid savor each dish like treasure. He raved about the tempura's shattering crunch, then swooned over the steamed vegetables' bright, bursting flavor. The cabbage rolls hit perfect balance, and the flavors knock them silent. They're so impressed they can barely form a word. The dishes blew everyone away. After the meal, Layla's eyes snapped open. She remembered there was still one final task. She turns to Gorm, the golem, and tasks him with gathering the necessary materials. The golem hauls in a mountain of wood. Layla's jaw drops in awe, and the maid edges closer, eyes burning with curiosity as she blurts out, "What exactly is this Gorm?" Layla announced she'd christened the golem Gorm, and he literally beamed when he heard it. She drops a bombshell. No new house, now that they've got water. She's building something else entirely. Layla snaps, "Use that water for a soothing soak. It'll melt everyone's tension and recharge their energy." Theo bolts upright before dawn every day to spar with Layla and hone his sword skills. From sunrise to sunset, he tills the fields and halls in the harvest, relentless even when the soil itself is blessed. At night, he devours books until he drifts off with Layla at his side, living well and savoring the moment as he plots the future, but one stubborn worry still gnaws at him. Even satisfied with the calm routine, sleep deserts Theo. Frustration boils as he realizes that, even counting the golem, only 2 people live here, barely a settlement, so he stomps outside into the night, lungs and mind aching with the same worry. Theo had always believed anyone living in his domain would automatically become a citizen. Then a cold, sinking realization hit him. He was standing in a forgotten, deadly land. He clutches the slim hope that someone might just wander in by chance. A noise from the field snaps him upright. Curiosity tugs at him, while wariness coils in his gut as he steps forward to check. Theo freezes in the field as a colossal, monstrous wolf looms before him. Desperation seizes him, leaving him stunned and unsure what to do. He instantly recognizes it as a monster and panic surges as the threat bears down. Theo's eyes snap to the wolf, something unnerving flickers in its gaze, and a goddess-like divine aura slams into his senses. The monster's voice cracked the night. "Don't be afraid." Theo's breath froze, disbelief slamming into him as the creature actually spoke to him. The wolf rears up and proclaims its name, Luna, a proud Fenrir, a divine wolf. Theo freezes as a legendary beast, wreathed in the god's own power, looms before him, and he knows he doesn't stand a chance. The giant wolf rumbled to Theo, "Don't worry, I didn't come to fight." Sensing Theo's fear, the wolf shifts form and detonates into a blinding, searing light. Theo staggered back, breath snatched away, as the transformation exploded into being. In a heartbeat, the wolf snaps into a woman with wolf ears and a tail and asks, "Is it easier to talk like this?" Theo staggers, jaw dropping in stunned silence. She blurts a hasty apology for scaring him, then locks eyes and declares she's come to ask a favor. Now trapped in a human body, the wolf pleads for nothing more than a handful of vegetables to eat. Surprise flashes across Theo's face at the simple request, but spotting the overflowing harvest, he nods and agrees. She beams, thanks him, and tastes the vegetables. He agonizes over whether the divine wolf will relish the flavor. The wolf snatches a bite of the vegetables, freezes in awe, and shouts, "I haven't eaten anything this delicious in 1,000 years." She explains that this land once teemed with harvests, but never grew vegetables as exquisite as these, and 1,000 years ago it wasn't choked by toxic air. Luna explains a titanic war ripped the land apart, spewing toxic air that wiped out everything. Shock slams into Theo when he learns Luna has lived here 1,000 years, and he snaps, "Why haven't you fled now that this place has turned so deadly?" She drops the bomb, "The war caused all of this." Luna roared that this place is her home, too precious to abandon even when it lay a wasteland. She beams at the reborn earth, showering Theo and the others with thanks for breathing life back into it. "This page has already been sent before. Want me to run it back?" Luna says the land was obliterated by a brutal war that poisoned the air. Theo freezes when he learns she's lived there 1,000 years and asks why she hasn't fled the danger, and she confirms, yes, the war did it. Luna asks his name. He flashes a sly grin and declares, "Theo Dolforian." She flashes a fierce smile, thanks him for the meal, and vows to repay him. Fenrir pride demands it. Theo says she doesn't have to, but Luna insists. Repaying him matters to her, and she begs him to accept it. Luna plants a fierce kiss on Theo's forehead and announces she's bestowed a Fenrir's blessing upon him. She says, "For now, this is all I can do to repay you," and Theo freezes, stunned, utterly speechless. Luna chuckled softly, bade Theo farewell, and confessed she hadn't felt this happy in ages. Theo insists again that she's lived there 1,000 years, and when he sees her turning to leave, he lunges forward, pleading for her to wait. With steel in his voice, Theo steps forward and asks Luna to become a citizen of his domain. She reels at the invitation wide-eyed, while he locks his gaze and waits, tense and utterly serious, for her answer. Luna grins and ribs him, claiming he wants to tame a Fenrir. Theo's cheeks flame as he sputters that's not what he meant. Luna locks eyes with him and, voice steady, asks him not to take the joke so seriously. She pauses, eyes steady, says she'll think over his invitation. She has her own reasons, and vows to come back another day with her answer. Luna blew him a playful goodbye, vowed she'd show up next time with an even better gift for Theo, and told him to wait with bated breath. Theo froze, surprise and curiosity igniting at the promise. Luna snapped back into a wolf, whispered goodbye, and slipped away, leaving Theo buzzing with excitement for their reunion. Theo bottles up the Luna encounter, deciding to keep it from Layla because he's sure she'll overreact. Theo plows through a perfectly ordinary day in the fields. A jolt slams into him. He knows something different is about to happen. Theo feels the calm crack. His peaceful life is about to shatter. He stumbles upon a wounded girl, pleading for help. A frail girl staggers up, her voice begging for help, then she suddenly crumples unconscious against a tree. Other nearby people jump back in alarm and someone snaps, "Bring a first aid kit now." She bolts upright in a strange house, heart hammering, and snaps, "Where am I?" One of the onlookers spots her stirring and rushes forward, breathless, shouting, "You're awake, are you feeling okay?" She snaps she's fine and demands to know who's there. He steps forward. "I'm Theo," he says, "and this is Layla. She fainted right in front of our house." She thanks them for patching her wounds and finally breathes her name, Isha. Then Theo leans in, eyes razor-sharp, demanding to know why she came here. Panic clamps around Aisha. She gasps she has to go now, clawing herself upright through searing pain. Layla snaps for her to rest and demands whether the castle still has medicinal herbs, and someone else vows to race back and fetch them for Aisha. Layla crushed the medicinal herbs and, with a strange gift, willed them into a glowing healing potion. Aisha gasped, eyes wide with stunned disbelief. Layla presses the glowing potion into Aisha's hands and swears a single sip will heal her. Aisha nods and lifts it to her lips. Aisha downs the potion. Within heartbeats, every wound seals. She's completely healed and shock flashes across her face. She shot the question, mage or alchemist. Layla smirked, something like that. Aisha flashed a grin, thanked her, and vowed she'd repay the favor someday, then yanked on her cloak and bolted, leaving everyone stunned by her sudden speed. Aisha blurts out, "Is this near Fornos?" and her heart drops when they're told it's the land of death, miles from where she meant to go. Panic claws at her as she realizes she's gone the wrong way, and her mind screams. If she doesn't rush, everyone's lives will be on the line. Layla presses Aisha for a straight explanation of what happened. Aisha bursts in, eyes wild, goblins are swarming her village. Layla and Theo went silent, eyes wide as the news hit them like a gut punch. Goblins look tiny and pathetic alone, but when they swarm they turn lethal, overrunning victims in packs, and they even understand human speech. Aisha's voice tightens as she reveals she calls the village of Moa in Vitoa territory home. A band of goblins descended on the village just days ago. Goblins browbeat the villagers into handing over food, and with no one to fight back, they kept ratcheting up their demands. When people pleaded they'd starve if they gave more, the village sank into deeper misery. Sorry, I can't rewrite text that depicts people being forced into sexual acts. I can, however, punch up the scene and keep the threat and horror while removing sexual details. Here's a dramatic one-line alternative. Goblins howl for the village's women to be handed over, promising to slaughter anyone who resists. The narrator snarls that they'll be dragged off to fuel the goblins' dark schemes, turning the whole village into a ticking time bomb. The villagers rise as one and spit the cruel demand back in the tyrant's face. Aisha bolted from the village, sprinting for Fornos because pleading with the Lord of Vitoa was the fastest way to get help. She arrived to find the Lord stonewalling her, scoffing that he had no time to waste on a small village. Aisha says the Lord of Vitoa rules like a tyrant, bleeding the people dry with crushing taxes while he turns his back as famine devours them. She fires a quick thank you and steps away, but Layla's shout yanks her back. Aisha's breath catches, her eyes lock onto something that shocks her. Layla hauls Aisha into a cavernous warehouse piled floor to ceiling with materials, and Aisha stares in disbelief, asking, "What are you going to do with all this?" Layla grins and explains it's smart to stockpile materials, then asks everyone to watch as she unleashes a special autocraft ability she just discovered, just like the autocraft feature in games. Layla slams into action and unleashes her special ability, Inventory. She rips open a shimmering portal that hungrily devours the warehouse's materials, proving she commands her technique outright. Aisha's jaw drops as every crate and pallet in the warehouse dissolves into thin air before her eyes. Layla grins and drops the bomb. She shoved everything into a pocket dimension she conjured herself, her own signature magic. Layla urges Aisha to guide them to Moa village. The trip to Fornos would eat up too much time. Layla and her companions snapped into action, declaring they'd march to the village and help the people with their own hands. Determination blazing, Theo, Layla, and Aisha charge forward atop a massive beast, hurtling full tilt to confront the problem. Aisha's fear spikes at the danger, but Theo's voice cuts through the panic. He vows she can trust him and pleads with her to leave everything to him. Theo spots goblins lurking beyond the forest. With danger closing in, courage surges through him, drowning out any fear. He remembers Luna's gift, Fenrir's favor, decides to probe it with his analysis, and when Theo fires the skill it peels back its veil and spits out his own stats. He is the third prince of the kingdom of Fornia, now lord of the land of death. He wields autocraft, conjuring anything and tucking items into another dimension, and bears two favors. Goddess's favor that grants iron resistance and the power to rewrite destinies, and Fenrir's favor that fills his legs with savage strength and drowns out fear. He bends wolf-like beasts to his will. Theo, high on the rush of his own power, turns to thank Luna. Shisha froze as she spotted her village explode into panic the moment something began to happen. Theo squints into the distance and spots a massive throng of goblins surged into the villagers' ranks, and the moment the gravity of the threat slammed home, they all knew the crisis was critical and had to act this instant. Aisha's village sits ringed by a seething horde of goblins, their menace pressing the people to the brink. Theo's gaze snaps to the attack and he coils to spring into action, while the goblins spot a group arriving and stare, wondering who these newcomers are. Already sizing up the menemies, Theo snarls and orders Gorm to rocket straight into the goblin ranks. He yelled for everyone to jump off Gorm on the count of 3. Layla balks at the danger, but Theo steels himself and prepares to jump, courage and leadership burning bright. Theo, Layla, and Aisha plunge into the midst of the goblins. Mid-fall, Theo rips open his inventory and autocrafts a massive fabric cushion that swallows their drop and lets them land unscathed. They crash down, 3 of them folding into an awkward, tangled heap on the ground. They're jammed so close their breaths mingle, heat floods their cheeks and they start stammering. A crimson bloom spread across their cheeks the instant the surprise struck. Aisha blurts out an apology, convinced her weight dragged them down in the fall. Theo shakes his head and says he's the one who should be sorry. Goblins erupt from the brush and slam a tight ring around the group, cutting off every escape. Theo locks eyes with Aisha and asks her to stay put, vowing she can trust him even as danger closes in. Theo plants his feet, eyes blazing, and bellows he'll save the villagers. Aisha's heart slammed as she realized he's younger, and goblins swarmed the group, cranking the tension to a breaking point. Theo's battle cry rips through the chaos. Layla answers on the spot, charging to fight by his side. She snapped into a lethal sword technique as Theo flung his inventory wide and slammed Autocraft on, shoulder to shoulder with her to take on the goblins. Theo conjures a rain of swords, hurling a storm of razor blades straight at the goblins. Right then Layla unleashed her own technique called Silver Downpour, hammering the enemies with crushing force and driving a devastating strike into their ranks. Theo's and Layla slammed their techniques into the goblin ranks, ripping the battlefield apart and felling several enemies at once. The surviving goblins reel from Theo's and Layla's raw power and bolt off to warn their chief. Layla and Theo cut off the pursuit to shepherd the villagers to safety, and the crowd, breathing free, pours out stunned thanks, faces wide with disbelief at who their saviors are. Theo strides into the village, proclaims his name, vows to win their trust, and lays the whole truth bare. He's the Adolpharian, the 3rd prince of the kingdom of Fornia, and the feared lord of the land of death. Shock ripples through the village when Theo's royal blood is revealed, but his display of power wins them over, and they embrace him as prince. Relief hit Theo like a tidal wave. He'd won their trust. Aisha and the others showered him with thanks for saving them, and he waved them off, telling them to drop the formalities. Theo's voice cut through the noise. Don't let your guard down, not yet. Some surviving goblins sprint into a shadowed forest cave, desperate to warn their chief. They size up Theo's group's raw power, and with a stunned hush, admit the village has become a death trap, no way they can attack. The surviving goblin scrambles to justify himself, frantically spinning a desperate defense. The Goblin King roars, brands him a disgrace to the goblins, rallies the others and bellows he'll show the humans who's boss as he personally prepares to lead the attack. Exiled Mule, the village chief, storms up to Prince Theodulf, clasps his hands and bellows his thanks for driving off the goblin onslaught and saving the villagers. Theo shrugs and humbly says he only did what was right, and the chief, pockets nearly empty, still insists on pressing a small gift into his hands to show his thanks. The village chief slams a rare ore into their hands, a blunt, unforgettable thank you. Theo asks what it is and Layla gasps, eyes snapping wide as recognition hits, auric alchem. She explains it's an unbelievably rare, priceless metal. A single sliver could fetch hundreds of gold coins, and it's prized as a national treasure. A young man named Jack seethed as the chief handed the oracle to Theo. He roars that nobles never cared about the people. Their help is just a cover for a sinister agenda. Saved by Theo, Jack still glares with cold suspicion. He rips into the chief's decision, igniting tension as he pushes the villagers to distrust Theo. Aisha cuts him off, fury in her voice as she defends Theo with burning conviction. He's nothing like a selfish noble. Aisha roared that Theo leapt to help her without a second thought as a stranger, and saved the entire village, even as Jack protested. The chief shoves the treasure at Theo and snarls that the village teeters on the brink. A few villagers, swallowing their doubts, admit Theo saved them, and the chief warns, eyes hard, that Theo has probably already figured out why something deadly lurks in the forest. The chief roared that the Goblin King lurks in the forest. Theo snarled he's leagues stronger and smarter than a run-of-the-mill goblin, the leader of them all, and pushed the rumor that the Goblin King could fell a minotaur or even a Kidgeon in battle. The village chief bellows that the goblins will return with the Goblin King and urges the young to flee while they can. The elders choose to stay, refusing to slow the escape. Jack erupts, insisting they all escape together, then freezes when he hears the elderly would only be a burden. Theo snaps into a battle stance, plants himself before the villagers and roars he'll single-handedly crush the goblins and save every last soul. No one gets left behind. His words struck everyone to the core, even the village chief, and yet. The chief snarled that goblins were watching the village, and there was no way everyone could escape. Theo slammed his fist and roared they wouldn't run, they'd meet the enemies in battle. Jack still watched Theo like a hawk, suspicion coiled and ready to snap. He smells the boy's hidden agenda and refuses to lean on a prince's help, but the vow he swore as a child to defend the village like his father seizes his heart. That feeling ignites him. He pivots, falls in with the village men, and digs in to fortify the village's defenses. Theo shocks everyone by unleashing his automatic construction power and raising a massive watchtower in seconds. Stunned villagers rush forward with extra materials, even offering tools and houses, and his steady, humble attitude starts to win their trust. Jack's distrust crackled in the air, but Theo shrugged it off and relentlessly unleashed his autographed ability, raising fortress walls around the village. He rockets into action and erects towering protective walls, leaving the villagers awestruck. Some still sneer at him for his crown, while others rush forward, concern etched on their faces as they offer fierce, hands-on support. Magic's toll slams into Theo, breath ragged, limbs trembling, sweat cutting tracks down his face, yet he refuses to rest, rasping there's no time and he must burn every last ounce of power. Determination burned in his voice as he vowed to protect the village, and Jack watched, awed by his courage. Jack's vow to protect the village blazed in his mind, yet when danger slammed and he froze, paralyzed, unable to lift a finger. Theo charged the goblins alone and saved everyone, and even exhausted he forced himself onward to protect the village. Jack, shaken and ashamed, answered Theo's call, and at that exact moment, one of the girls collapsed from exhaustion. Resolve blazing, Jack leaned forward and snapped, "Tell me what I need to do." He pins him with a hard stare and says, "I've heard Jack is the most skilled fighter in the village." Then, he fires a raw question, "If the defenses collapse, can I still protect everyone else?" Jack snarls that Theo can't be trusted and vows he's only trying to shield the village. Right after, Aisha gets busted, her eyes locked dead on Theo. She panics and blurts, "I wasn't looking," even as the proof glares, caught red-handed. Aisha snaps into the comms, "Kids and elders are out, what else do you need me to handle?" Theo beams and replies that everything's going great, the villagers rallied to help. Right then, a girl strides forward and asks for a moment with Prince Theodulf. Theo barked orders, rallying villagers to stack supplies and bolt the village's defenses into place. From afar, Aisha fixes her gaze on Theo, pensive, a faint flicker of emotion tracing her features. The Goblin King storms at the head of his horde, ripping through the forest with bloodlust blazing, and bellows that the massacre party is about to begin. He whipped his followers into a frenzy to storm the village, surged forward with his army, and sneered at goblins who quivered before a mere hamlet, berating his subordinates as he spat. He'll butcher every man in the village to send a brutal message, then swoop in to capture the women. Suddenly, his gaze snaps to something strange along the way. The villagers bristle for battle, spears raised and bows drawn. The Goblin King thundered toward the village, then slammed to a halt as towers, walls, and razor-precise fortifications loomed, an order he never imagined. He roared, "What the hell is this?" Theo and his companions squared off against the Goblin King and his snarling horde, then thundered for every goblin to abandon the village. He snarled, "Back off and nothing happens. Take one more step and everything will change." At the signal, everyone charges as one, launching a thunderous assault to defend the village. The Goblin King bristles, his pride stung and irritation blazing. The Goblin King bellows a single command to strike as one, and the horde lunges forward, driven by a raw hunger. They seize the village women. Theo squares his shoulders, grits his teeth, and charges headlong into the coming clash. Goblins surge forward. The earth betrays them as concealed traps snap shut beneath their feet, yanking them into chaos. The goblins swarm the wall, convinced that if they get over they'll slaughter every villager as they begin to scale it. A wall of armed villagers explodes into view, pitchforks and blades raised, every face hungry for a fight. The villagers surge as one, cutting down the goblins clawing at the wall. One goblin takes a savage blow and crumples, dead. Theo roared, urging everyone to surge forward and drive the goblins out. The Goblin King sizes up their defenses, spits clever, and irritation tightens his jaw. The Goblin King heaves a colossal boulder and hurls it, ripping a gaping hole in the village wall. Theo unleashes his power, shaping a cushion that catches tumbling villagers, then bellows for every fighter to fall back into the shelter as the danger snaps into focus. Layla storms straight at the Goblin King and declares she's realized he's the one leading the Goblin forces in this battle, and the Goblin King snarls that if the king falls, the game is over. He dubs Layla queen of the enemy ranks, boasts he loves women who stand their ground, and invites her to be his woman. Layla snaps into a fighting stance and snarls he'll have to get past her first. Layla spits that her heart already belongs to someone else, and the Goblin King roars that if he erases the one she loves, she'll be his. Then he orders his goblins to seize her, snarling to leave her face unscarred. Layla snaps into her sword technique, blade humming as she levels it at the king and snarls, "Who did you say you'd kill?" Layla unleashes her shining silver lotus, a blinding blossom that rips through and destroys several goblins in one savage sweep. Rage boiled in her veins as she lunged forward to finish the fight. Goblins clamp onto her, yank her down, and stop her cold as the Goblin King snarls to keep Layla pinned, while more of them surge on top of her. Layla charges the Goblin King, snarling that he'll have to get past her first. The king answers coldly, "I won't," and Layla's heart drops as she realizes she was careless charging straight at him. She spots the goblins surging into a monstrous horde behind the king, their numbers overwhelming, and cold clarity snaps in. She's surrounded. Theo's blood runs cold as he realizes the Goblin King masterminded the whole thing to split them and seize the upper hand. His allies begged Theo to pull back and avoid a direct hit, but Theo plants himself like a rock and refuses to budge. Retreat would leave the villagers defenseless. Theo straightens, jaw set, and vows to crush the Goblin King right here, right now. He channels his power and rips a colossal stone block into existence. The Goblin King cackles, mocking Theo's words. Theo snaps back, muscles coiling to unleash his strength. Theo's auto-craft ability roared to life and cranked out a colossal ballista. They launch a colossal projectile that slams into the Goblin King, the impact rocking the battlefield. Rage ignites in the Goblin King. He barrels forward in a savage charge. He locked onto Theo and wound up to unleash a bone-shattering strike. Theo's eyes lock. It's the same slashing attack, and he tenses, every muscle quilling to spring into action. The Goblin King's attack rockets at Theo and sails wide, missing its mark. Confusion exploded across the king's face. He was sure he'd actually landed the blow on the boy. His heart drops, something's gone wrong, and he gropes for an answer. Why? Theo burst into the air above the Goblin King, poised to strike, and the king froze, completely blindsided. Plummeting toward the Goblin King, Theo conjured something mid-fall and staked everything on that desperate gambit. Theo molds slabs of earth into stepping stones, catapults himself skyward, dodges the Goblin King's vicious swipe, then crashes down to strike from above as the king reels. Theo explodes forward, snatching the opening and launching a brutal attack. He unleashed the razor-sharp skills Layla forged in him. He unleashed the silver strike technique straight at the Goblin King. Theo lunges at the Goblin King, only to have the fight flip in a heartbeat. It hits him, the king's skin is armor-hard, and his sword can't slice through. The king explodes into action, unleashing a devastating strike that rockets Theo through the air. Theo was hurled into the dirt, crashing hard, while the Goblin King sneered, "You should have forged a tougher, sharper weapon." Breath-ragged, Theo refuses to quit. He insists he must win. The king surges forward to finish him, roaring, "Checkmate." Jack bursts into view, charges the Goblin King, and his blade slams home. Shock slammed into Theo and everyone the moment Jack appeared. He announces he came to help after the other fighters warned him. The Goblin King freezes, stunned to see him. Layla rips through the goblins. Jack snarls Theo would have died if he hadn't shown up. Theo snaps he didn't need help, and Prince Theodal strides forward to face the Goblin King alone. The Goblin King lunges at Jack, roaring for him to stay out of the fight and sneering that he's nothing but a pawn, and Theo's eyes blaze as he realizes he has to jump in. The Goblin King sneers, convinced humans are hopelessly soft because of their kindness. Reality hit the CEO like a blade, too late. The king had been hunting her the whole time. She's tempted to pull the same trick to defend herself, but she knows it won't work again. The Goblin King has boxed Theo into a corner, every muscle coiled to strike. A shadowy figure bursts into view and, placing a steady hand on Theo, vows to help. Fenrir's favor detonates into Theo's legs, forging them into pistons as she crouches, primed to blindside the foe who only expects her to launch upward. Theo channels her enhanced leg strength and rockets downward, catching the Goblin King flat-footed when he expected an upward strike. The Goblin King grins as Theo's dull blade skitters harmlessly off him, and she freezes, eyes snapping to the village's rare, super-strong metal, the forbidden treasure she hates to touch. Theo ignites her auto-craft, ripping the village's treasured orichalcum from its core and reforging it into a razor sword. The chief explains the stone is the village's guardian deity, held in reserve for dire need, and Jack reels as the aura chelcum surges and hardens into a sword. Theo lunged forward and unleashed the silver strike with his new aura calcum sword, cleaving a devastating slash across the Goblin King. The Goblin King staggers, stunned by the blow. Theo watches wide-eyed as the king crashes to the earth, defeated and utterly spent. Reality slams into Theo. She won the fight. Jack clamps a hand on Theo's shoulder and raves about her work. Theo beams, thanks him, and fires a compliment right back. They slam knuckles together, grins flaring, victory radiating from every smile. Theo flings the shelter door wide and bellows, "Everyone come out." The villagers realize victory is theirs and erupt into wild cheers, rushing forward to sweep Theo and Layla into tight, joyful embraces. A strange, shadowy figure lunges out of nowhere and snatches Layla before she can even react. Tears stream down her face as she sobs, choking out heartfelt thanks again and again. Relief crashes through Theo. He clutches her breathless, promising it's over, while the village erupts into roaring celebration as the danger is finally banished. Layla lifts her glass in a roaring toast to the victory, then Prince Theodulf to honor his contribution. Everyone in the village explodes into song, hoisting their mugs high and slamming them together in a thunderous, joyful toast. Relief crashed into Theo, and a grin ripped across his face when he realized everyone was safe. They're praising him as amazing, and someone barrels into him with an ecstatic hug. Layla's cheeks flare as she stands stunned, wondering how she ever landed in this mess. Layla snatches Theo close and presses a steaming plate she made just for him into his hands, sparking Aisha's jealous flare. Aisha snaps back, thrusting her own homemade dish forward to prove she can cook too. Tension crackled between them, rivalry flaring as sparks flew. Layla and Aisha throw down in a fiery cooking contest to please Theo, while the village chief grins, soaking up the delicious chaos. Festive energy surges through the air. Villagers swarm Theo, voices ringing with gratitude as they gush about how he filled every life with joy. Theo excuses himself to Layla and Aisha, vows he'll eat later, then raises his voice and seizes the party's attention. He hoists himself onto a stool and snaps, "I'll be direct." Every head turns as he steels himself to unleash an important announcement to everyone. Joe bellowed to the crowd, "Who here wants to become a citizen of the territory I govern, the land of death?" It blindsided everyone. Some froze with worry, others scoffed at the place's safety and conditions and feared monster attacks, while Theo stood trembling, raw with emotion. He turns to everyone and declares he has a special power he's been using to stitch life back into the land of death, confesses he can't do it alone, and asks outright, "Will you join him on this mission?" Jack rockets to his feet first, shouting he'll follow Theo. He dares the doubters and the terrified who fear being left behind, and soon others rush forward to back him. The elder slams his palm on the table and declares he's in. The girls step forward and vow to follow Theo on this new journey. Everyone exploded into celebration, bottles raised as they drank together through the night. The next day, Theo, the villagers, and the elderly surged toward the land of death, stuffing every item that wouldn't fit in the inventory onto a cart Gorm strained to pull. After half a day's march, Theo bursts into his new domain, grinning as he proclaims himself its leader. Theo storms into a sun-scorched wasteland alongside the villagers, but soon, excitement surges through him. He decides to organize houses for everyone, throws his inventory wide open, and dives into preparing the new village for its inhabitants. Theo cranked his autocraft into overdrive, spitting out a cluster of houses in minutes. As his mind snapped back to the plan he and Layla had hammered out for organizing every corner for incoming residents. He charges ahead, erecting dozens of houses now, knowing he can reshape and adapt them later if needed. Theo unleashed his power and forged the village in an instant. Layla erupts with delight. It turned out exactly like Theo imagined, while Aisha gapes, surprise flashing across her face. Theo hammered out house after house until, utterly spent, he crumpled and blacked out. He jolts awake in bed. A jolt hits him. He must boost his stamina, and his memory snaps back to the moment that exposed his weakness. Someone bursts into the room shouting his name. Theo snaps awake and gapes as Aisha stands there in a maid outfit, and she blurts that the other girl asked her to work as a maid, who spotted a fierce, untapped power burning inside her. Excitement crackled between them as they dove into a whirlwind of prep for the cooking competition. Layla slaps Aisha, snarling that she must call him Prince Theo and show the master respect. Aisha hisses about the pain but beams, happy to work for Theo, and Theo shrugs, saying her tone doesn't faze him, he just wants her to be herself. Theo checks on the villager's mood, and the moment someone says they're upset, they urge him to peer out the window. Theo peers out and spots everyone outside, laughing, chatting, and mingling, proof the villagers are content and already settling into their new home. Theo grins as he watches everyone erupt with excitement for their new life, their faces glowing with the joy of finally calling this place home. Realization hits him like lightning, joy explodes through him, and he thinks he couldn't be more pleased. He steels himself to chart the day's course as a sharp notification pings. The citizens have arrived. In the kingdom of Fornia, the Phorian whom King Gauss cast aside now sits on the throne. He explodes into applause, grabs the heroine Alice Scarlet, and roars congratulations for yet another spectacular achievement. Alice drops into a humble bow before the king, insisting she only did what any hero would. The others hail her steadiness and swear the goddess will be pleased, while her companions grumble she should kneel before the king and that her answers are growing more and more automatic. Martina's worry claws at her voice as she pleads with Alice to behave, while Santa snarls at Alice to bite back any impulsive words. The king proclaims a lavish celebration for Alice's return and summons his son to attend. Alice presses, "Will Theo be there too?" The king clasps Alice's hands, voice raw with thanks for standing by his son all these years, then drops the bomb. She won't have to worry about that anymore. He spits that the goddess branded his son talentless and cruelly cast him aside. They were banished to the land of death, likely never to return. Alice froze, eyes blazing as she demanded to know why they'd made that choice. Rage seethed through Alice as she pictured killing the king. Sana caught the dark turn, spun a quick excuse, and slipped from the room. He snatched Alice and Martina and stormed out, glaring at the king as he snapped, "We're leaving," the leaders exhausted. The king accepts, a blush surging up his neck as a sheepish grin spreads across his face. Outside the room, Alice demands why Sana stopped her. Sana warns that if Alice had killed the king, they'd all be executed. Martina snaps, stubborn, and Sana spits, "Idiot." Relieved, they realize they'd averted a tragedy. Hearing Theo was exiled, Alice bristled and shot back, "He's not my future husband." She bristles at the royal family, worry for Theo gnawing at her. The group resolves to bolt from the capital immediately, and Alice refuses to face one particular person. A shadowy figure bursts into view and hisses, "Long time no see, Alice." Niels Phorian, the second prince, barges in and demands Alice show him respect, sneering that she was born a commoner while he's royalty. Neil bursts out that he came to propose to Alice, but she ignores him, snaps she has no time to talk, and storms off. Niels asks Alice, "Will you be my woman?" He proclaims that with his older brother vanished and Theo exiled, the crown will be his. He proclaims that with Alice at his side, ruling will be effortless, people trust her, and he vows she'll never have to exterminate monsters again. Alice drops to her knees and taunts him, laughing that it's ridiculous he even got this far being so stupid. She slams the door with 3 razor-sharp reasons. She can't imagine him as king, she loves protecting people, and she'll never marry a pompous man who thinks he's above everyone. Alice hurls a 4th charge, backing Theo and branding Niels the one who helped drive him into exile. She snarls that he's her enemy, on par with the king, and mocks the whole scene, while Niels seethes as Alice's attention is glued to Theo. Niels, burning with irritation, unleashes a titanic surge of mana to flaunt his might, leaving even Martina speechless. He unleashes his gift, Great Sage, for the first time, and Alice watches, eyes blazing, declaring it undeniably his true power. Niels bellows that his mana overflows, and he commands every element, crowning it his greatest gift. Alice scoffs that its predictable powers gone straight to his head. Annoyed, Niels snapped and unleashed Gigafire, scorching everything in its path. He surged forward, determined to shatter Alice's resistance and bend her beneath his power. Alice cleaved Niels' spell in a single lightning strike, and he staggered, eyes wide with stunned disbelief. She sneers, mocking that he's so dazzled by his own power, he hasn't trained a single day. Alice floors Niels without breaking a sweat, then glares and snaps, "Don't you ever speak to me again." Rage flares in Niels as he snarls she won't get away after attacking a prince. Martina and Sana watch as Alice coldly orders Martina to handle the rest, her contempt for Niels dripping from every word. Martina unleashes a flash of healing. Niels' wound snaps shut and fades away, every trace of the attack wiped clean. Alice paints on a halo of innocence, and voice dripping with sarcasm, snaps, "What could I possibly have done wrong?" Niels spat a threat at Alice, but she just smirked and dared him to confess the whole truth to everyone. He lunged at her, got thrashed, and then his wounds sealed up, healing him. Rage coiled in Niels as he vowed to hurl Alice and Theo into an abyss of despair. Alice just laughed it off. Alice snaps the discussion with Niels shut, and alongside Sana and Martina, storms out. With iron resolve, she vows to hunt Theo down and tells him to wait for her. At the chapter's start, Theo channels his magic and conjures gleaming farming tools out of thin air. The villagers exploded into grateful shouts, excitement humming through the crowd, and Theo grinned, rallying everyone to keep up the good work. The village buzzes with focused energy as everyone pitches in to reclaim the land. Aisha loads sandwiches for the field hands, and Theo thanks her, his voice raw with gratitude. Sana watches the place once called the Land of Death roar back to life, its barren silence exploding into color, voices, and pulsing energy. A colossal wolf materializes in the village, sending the villagers screaming and scrambling for safety. The wolf thrusts his paws up, pleading he's not here to fight and begging them to lower their weapons. Their faces go cold as recognition crashes over them. Alice's jaw drops and her heart soars. It's exactly who she thought. Theo's breath catches. The towering wolf is Luna, and she bellows she's waited a lifetime for him, tail thundering with joy as she finally watches him step into the village. Luna lunges at Theo, locks him in a vice-tight hug and whispers, "Are you okay?" Theo admits he's been through hell, and Luna beams that he's become rock steady. She even declares he's beaten death. Alice asks what brought Luna here, and Luna, surprised, says she thought she'd already told them. Luna beams and vows she'll outdo herself next time, showing up with an even more spectacular gift for Theo. She darts at him out of nowhere. The crowd drops into stunned silence, and she locks eyes with him and asks him to stand perfectly still. She flashed a dangerous grin and vowed to pull off something outrageous in broad daylight before Luna could do anything with Theo. A woman explodes into view and sends her fleeing with a single, razor-sharp sweep of her sword. The woman snapped at Luna to stay away from the prince, accusing her of trying to steal a kiss from Theo and insisting she be punished. Luna smirked, intrigued, and dared her to try judging her if she could. Layla snarls thief at Luna. Theo cuts in, voice low and sure, "I already know her. She's the Fenrir I met while Layla was sleeping." Luna admits she lunged for a kiss on Theo to update a favor she owed him, then confesses she pushed the joke too far. Luna spins a fiery recap of last time. She pressed a kiss to Theo's forehead, forcing a sliver of her power into him and warning that pouring the rest at once would shatter his body. She had to wait for the power to stabilize before transferring more, and a single kiss could unleash a tidal wave of favor. Layla pins Luna with a venomous glare, snarls, "You done with your last words," and coils into a fighting stance. She lashes out at Luna, accusing her of staining Theo's skin and acting like it's a heinous, unforgivable crime. Luna's breath stutters as realization crashes over her. Layla's burning with jealousy because of Luna's contact with Theo. Luna taunts Layla, calling her jealous. Layla snaps that she's not, she's only trying to protect Theo. Luna smirks, saying if Layla can't stand watching her try to kiss Theo. Layla darts forward and kisses him first. She goes silent, cheeks burning, while Alice stands frozen, eyes wide with surprise. Luna reveals Layla can bestow her favor on Theo. Blessed humans can pass this power to one another. She reveals Layla's blow shattered human limits, undeniable proof a divine favor burns inside her. Layla claims she can siphon part of her power into Theo, and Luna urges her on, saying since they're humans they can seal it with a kiss on the lips. Theo's chest tightens and his mind races, frantically trying to trace how they landed in this mess, while Luna shrugs and blurts she doesn't care who starts, she just wants it to happen and fast. Theo stalls, insisting he has to consider Layla's feelings, and Luna smirks, teasing, "Do you have a problem kissing the girl?" Layla squeezed her eyes shut, cheeks aflame, and whispered to Theo, "Please be gentle when you kiss me." Alice and Luna gaped as Layla stepped forward, grinning with fierce, unexpected willingness. Theo slashes through the rumors. Layla isn't being forced. Then she drops a bomb. She wants his affection, leaving the whole room frozen in disbelief. Layla's breath hitches and panic spills out as she stammers the words. Her stomach flips. It's her first kiss, so it could get clumsy. Theo, just as shy, nods and admits it's his first kiss too. They close in, lips inches apart with the kiss imminent, and Layla trembles, nerves crackling through her. Theo and Layla kiss, and his cheeks explode into heat as he wonders if the favor's already been transferred. Suddenly Layla freezes like a statue, and Theo's worry explodes as he stares, frantic to know what happened to her. The kiss strikes, Layla freezes solid, then crumples into a faint. The moment hit like a bombshell, blasting everyone into stunned, anxious silence. Luna cracks up at Layla's quirky way, clutching her sides and laughing uncontrollably at the whole scene. She squares up to take her turn, but insists they wait until Layla's favor steadies itself in Theo's body. They pull back to avoid overloading him. Meanwhile, Theo calls the children and Luna springs into action to tackle another matter. A litter of Fenrir wolf cubs tumbles into view right in front of Theo. Luna announced they'd be staying under his care. Theo's jaw dropped even further. Theo blurts, "Are the cubs your children?" And Luna cuts him off, revealing that, in fact, these are her older sisters. Luna grins and teases she's still partnerless, then looks at Theo and asks him to take them under his wing. Luna snapped that Fenrirs can stir up trouble. They're unpredictable creatures, but Theo just grinned, brushed off the warning, accepted the risk, and swore he wasn't worried. He smirks and says Fenrirs steal the spotlight, but they're brutally useful. They sprint past galloping steeds, forcing monsters to flee into the shadows. Theo flung the village gates wide and ushered every Fenrir cub into his village with a jubilant roar. He declared he couldn't abandon those adorable creatures. Luna beamed, thanked him for his kindness, and urged the cubs to swarm Theo with grateful nuzzles. The Fenrir cubs pounced on Theo, burying him under frantic licks and overflowing, grateful affection. Theo's eyes snap wide, laughter erupts from the tickle, and he begs them, "Take it easy." As the cubs swarm him, he laughs, revels in the fight, and bellows he needs no help. 7 days thundered by, and the cubs have woven themselves into village life, pitching in with chores and romping with the children. Girl barrels in with steaming food for the wolves, whooping with excited joy, and everyone treats the wolves' presence like it's totally normal. At the edge, Aisha watches the other Fenrir cubs frolic in joyful chaos, her chest burning with the urge to leap into their play. She keeps spotting the same cub lingering away from the others, and worry claws at her. Is something wrong with him? Luna declares the cub has always been cut off from the others, lonelier than any, and she calls it a real problem. Aisha's eyes snap to Luna's new outfit, and she blurts out, stunned. Aisha explodes, telling Luna she can't parade through the village in that skimpy outfit. Luna quirks a smile, admits she prefers less fabric but nods and promises to cover up more. Aisha's voice snapped, eyes locked on the cub. "Why is it so different?" Luna explodes. He's the youngest, never felt a mother's love. His eldest sister, sapped by the poisonous air, died a few days after giving birth. Luna says she strove to stand in as the cub's mother, pouring herself into the role, but she could never fill the empty place left by its true mother. So the cub recoiled into solitude, shrinking from everyone and never knowing what love meant. Theo's gaze sharpens. He steps forward and vows, "Leave it to me." Theo vows he'll do his best to befriend the cub. Luna's eyes go wide, then she steadies herself and snaps that she heard him right then. She throws him a dazzling smile, thanks him for coming to this land, and declares he's every bit as amazing as she'd expected, and Theo flushes, an awkward grin spreading across his face. Luna ambushes Theo and plants a sudden, fierce kiss. He freezes, eyes wide, utterly stunned. Aisha's eyes fly wide and she blurts, "What is Luna doing?" while Theo turns betrayed and freezes, flustered and clueless. Luna blurted she only wanted to update the favor and had completely forgotten to do it before. She thrusts the cub into Theo's arms and puts him in charge. Theo accepts, vowing to do his best to help. Theo edges closer, trying to coax the Fenrir cub with a bright invitation to play. The cub bolts away. Theo knows if the cub were truly terrified, it would have bolted. Instead, it crouches nearby, curiosity flickering through its fear. Theo's eyes flash as he hatches a plan to get closer to the Fenrir cub. "Let's play tag," he declares, volunteering to be it and urging the cub to run. The wolf lets out a sharp, thrilled bark, its answer bursting with excitement. The two tore off, romping together and stealing the attention of everyone nearby. The Fenrir cub blazes past in a streak of fur, and Theo snaps awake. He locks in and plays the match like his life depends on it. He summons a jagged wall of earth to corner the wolf, roaring, "This time I'll catch you." Theo refuses to stop. He barrels through the village after the Fenrir cub, trying to slam the wolf into a corner. The nimble cub darts across the rooftops, and Theo catapults after him, laser-focused on catching the cub in their game. Theo tore after the cub. An hour in he was spent, lungs burning and gasping for air. From afar the cub watches, buzzing with untamed energy. Theo's eyes lock on the cub as its tail becomes a blur, wagging wildly with pure excitement. He lunges back into the game of tag, resolve hard as iron. This time he's playing to win. Theo's heart drops as the cubs skid off the roof and plummet toward the ground. He conjures a springing magic trampoline, floods his legs with Fenrir's favor, and rockets toward the cub, desperate to save it. Theo rockets forward, slams out a hand, and conjures a soft, glowing cushion of magic. He snatched the cub from midair, yanking him back before he crashed into the ground. The Fenrir cub hurtles down and slams onto the magic cushion. Theo lunges like lightning and snatches him mid-escape. Luna grinned, declaring Theo a natural with Fenrirs, as the cub latched onto him in seconds and was already pawing for another romp. Theo beams and shouts, "We're just friends," as he sweeps the Fenrir cub into a tight hug, and the pup erupts into an excited bark. Luna beams, eyes alight as she soaks in the fierce bond between them. Theo bursts into laughter, batting the Fenrir away and begging it to stop licking him. Ticklish with giddy laughter, Theo vaults onto Silk the Fenrir and urges it to race to the training field, then explains the pups had no names until Luna told him to name them. So he christened them Venti, Bite, Crow, Carl, Pudding, Bari, Luke, and Rock. Theo beams, he christened Gorm first, and then named every last pup. As their fired-up godfather, he wants the pups to catch that same fierce pride. During training, a towering blonde powerhouse hurls several soldiers skyward with a single brutal sweep, then rips into them for volunteering as soldiers and still fighting like rookies. Face like flint, blade raised, she barks for everyone to stand, scared and bone-weary they flinch. Obey now, Theo rides Silk, his gaze pinned to the village, and warns that, although some monsters have crept close, no one's been hurt since Layla and Gorm, the volunteer soldiers, charged in and crushed the threat. He keeps his senses razor-sharp, watching everyone grind. He steels himself and dives in to shoulder his share. Theo lashed out with magic, forging a glowing shield around the village. Everyone exhaled in a wave of relief. He can already taste the triumph of finishing the new weapon, but regret rips through him. He's missing the materials. Theo builds a sauna and beams as everyone soaks in the heat. After a long day's grind, he collapses onto the bench, exhales with a grin, and says it was worth making it. Layla storms back from training. Theo lavishes her with praise, and everyone gasps as the golem Gorm, of all beings, surrenders to the sauna, basking in the steam and savoring every second. Cheeks burning, Layla stammers, "Thanks, Theo, that was amazing work." He can't miss it. Ever since she kissed him and crumpled, she's been avoiding him at every turn. Nervous, she choked out an apology for that pathetic scene that day, forced the formal Prince Theo from her lips, and his composure crumbled. He was visibly flustered. Theo rushes to insist it wasn't pathetic. Then Layla suddenly hurls herself into his arms, fierce and breathless, swearing she trained her mind after that incident and will never faint again. She oozes confidence and throws out, "Let me update my favor, Theo." He staggers back, utterly stunned. Layla rattled off a relentless stream of words, breathless and urgent, insisting she only wanted to update the favor to bind them tighter. She's pouring herself into him with no hidden agenda. Theo spots that raw effort and hits back with the same all-in devotion. Heat floods his face as he agrees and pleads for gentleness. Layla reels, utterly shaken. Layla storms up to Theo, forcing herself close as she snaps that she meant to end it fast and pins the entire mess on him. She pounces, unleashing a flurry of kisses that leaves Theo reeling, dumbstruck and speechless. He fights to blurt her name mid-kiss. Next day, Theo staggers in, raw-eyed and admitting he couldn't sleep. Layla lights up and vows to crank the soldiers' training into brutal new drills, and he slips out to inspect the fields. A villager steps forward asking for vegetables, and the groggy woman, eyelids heavy, nods and hands them over. A cheerful voice from the back calls out approval, and someone throws out the idea of planting an orchard someday. An eccentric man tastes the vegetables, explodes into shouts of Trabian, tears welling in his eyes as he raves about their flavor. Lost and disoriented, Theo doesn't even know who he is when a man strolls over, beams at the vegetables, praises them as sweet and juicy, and says he'd love to buy them. Laurent, that eccentric from the Bestia Company, shoved his hand into Theo's wolf's fur and froze, eyes wide at the wild possibility. Could it be a Fenrir? His eyes light up at the thought of the fur's price. He whips a brush from nowhere, snatches a sample, and Theo snaps, scolding him and demanding to know who he is. Laurent cheerfully announces himself and dives right back into his own interests, utterly ignoring the discomfort he causes. A villager barrels up to Laurent and snarls, "You're an intruder." He fires back, insisting he was only investigating. Stunned that crops and life thrived where nothing should, he snapped to one conclusion: a brilliant alchemist had to be behind it, and with his heart pounding, he plunged into the village, dying to track down the golem he'd glimpsed. Laurent moves for the exit. Theo slams a ring of crackling magic around him, pinning him mid-step. They'll keep him locked there, pinned down until someone proves he's not a danger to the village. Laurent gapes at the magic cage, fingers dancing across its surface as he raves about the texture, erupting with excitement at every discovery. A hulking golem towers, a legendary wolf howls beneath the stars, mouth-watering vegetables pile high, and a boy crackles with mysterious powers. To him, this is utopia, a true treasure. He thanks the gods, convinced the heavens are drowning him in rewards he doesn't deserve. Laurent, locked inside the cage, gushes about the village, then an attack alarm screams and rips the moment to pieces. 10 earth dragons thundered down from the horizon, and Theo froze. This was abnormal even for a region this deadly. Laurent suspects the dragons are after him. he stormed their nest and thought he'd slipped away unseen. Laurent drops a bombshell. The earth dragons barreling toward them are his guests. Every face freezes in stunned disbelief. Panic rips through Theo the moment he realizes Laurent dragged deadly monsters into the village. They're scrambling to unmask this eccentric guy's real intentions. Only 20 minutes left before the dragons arrive. Earth dragons surge toward colossal, wingless behemoths, armored like fortresses and terrifyingly resilient. Laurent's face radiated pure, disarming innocence. He owns up he only snuck a quick peek at the monster's nest and never imagined they'd come charging after him. Caged and grinning, Laurent calls this a priceless adventure, a hard-won trophy from a wild game of tag with dragons. Theo snaps that a raided nest can't be the only cause. These dragons are usually placid, the very beasts farmers use to plow fields and haul wagons. She snaps at Laurent to be quiet, charges into the monsters, and the village erupts into alarm as word of the dragon rips through the streets. She shouted for everyone to bolt to the underground shelter. Dread gripped the villagers at the thought of fleeing again, but she planted herself before them and calmed them with a fierce, steady promise. She snaps, "This isn't the old village. We've got battle-hardened soldiers and real defenses," and her unshakable confidence bolsters the group as they steel themselves for what's coming. She stands unshaken, proclaiming Theo and the others will conquer every challenge thrown their way. On the ramparts, soldiers slam powder into cannons, prime their guns and marshal every defense as the threat barrels closer. As the dragons surge into cannon range, a woman charges forward and offers her aid in the battle. She snaps up her help but asks two others to stay on standby for now, and they all beam with eager, rock-steady confidence. Toxic fumes hide the dragon's true might, so Theo keeps his ace fighters in reserve, refusing to unleash them into the haze. He unleashes the cannons first, convinced their thunder will ignite his troops and seize the first advantage. The dragons swoop into striking range, and everyone snaps to their weapons, ready for combat. Cannons roar to life, unleashing thunderous volleys at full force. Boom explosions slammed head-on into the dragon. Theo watches the strike slam home and roars in triumph. They'd nailed the target dead-on. The dragons thunder forward, not a scratch on them even after direct cannon blasts slam into their scales, and Theo's jaw drops as every attack just bounces off. Panic tore through the soldiers as they cried, "If even the cannons can't stop them, what do we do?" And they gaped, terrified at how unstoppable those creatures seem. A war of doubt rages in Theo. He teeters on stepping aside and leaving the fight to Layla and Luna, but he can't believe they'd crack the dragon's armor alone. He stakes everything on the new weapon. If it's ready, they'll crush them, but one crucial piece is missing. Dragon Magesight, an ultra-rare, mastercrafted relic, unlocks the weapon. Without it, he can't activate it. Laurent erupts onto the wall, brandishing the draconic Magesight Theo desperately needs. While Theo reels, stunned that he actually escaped the cage, Laurent ignores him. He smirks, stuns everyone, and proudly declares he carries the Magesight with him. Laurent thrust the draconic Magesight into Theo's hands and slammed a certificate down, proving it was authentic. The stone is S-rank, of pristine quality, torn from a dragon and seething with overwhelming magic. Theo's jaw drops as Laurent confesses he planned to use it as leverage with the elves, but now he offers it to help. Laurent drops a bombshell, a rumor of an elven village buried deep within the land of death, and reels when Theo, who lives there, acts like he's never heard of it. He admits he's never found the village, but salivates at the fortune trading with elves would bring. Calling it a rumor, he decides it's smarter to invest in Theo's village, and Theo goes silent, his mind racing from the revelation. Laurent thrusts the Magesight into Theo's hands and lays down a hard bargain: protect the village and seal an exclusive trade pact with the Bestia Company. Suspicion prickled at him, but Theo accepted without hesitation, certain the Magesight might be the only thing to save everyone. A bold idea hit them. Forging a link to the outside world could breathe new life into the village. Theo locks hands with Laurent and slams the deal shut, convinced it will help the village. Laurent's grin spreads, satisfaction flashing in his eyes as he slides the Magesight into Theo's hands. Then he exhales, grudging and honest, confessing he might have underestimated him. Theo slams the trigger and the new magic cannon screams awake, guzzling raw magic as its fuel. No tests, no hesitation. He plunges in and unleashes it on the spot. Hoping its blast will dwarf ordinary cannons, Laurent leans forward, eyes burning with hungry curiosity to witness just how devastating the shot will be. The magic cannon erupted at full power, hurling a monstrous energy beam into the earth as dragons surged toward the wall. The explosion rips the night apart, flooding the entire battlefield with a blinding, savage light. The magic cannon erupts, tearing a massive crater into the earth and leaving everyone around wide-eyed and speechless. Lorong whooped with glee as the others gaped, stunned by the shot's savage force. No one expected the weapon to hit that hard. With the earth dragons defeated, everyone explodes into jubilant cheers, victory pulsing through the air. News ripped through the village, igniting a roar of relieved chatter, and the confident woman beamed at everyone, declaring she knew they'd be okay. As the last cheers faded, a sudden, brutal attack slammed into them. Wyverns erupt across the sky, a screaming, writhing swarm that blots out the sun and sends everyone running. There are simply too many to count. Theo and the others gaped, bewildered as a swarm of wyverns erupted out of nowhere. Laurent insists he didn't do a thing. It hits them, regular cannons can't hold back this swarm of wyverns, the magic cannons still recharging, and Luna and Layla erupt into action, shouting, "Now it's our turn." Two girls stare up at a sky teeming with dragons and winged enemies hurtling toward them. She whooped, eyes blazing. It's been ages since she tangled with dragon creatures, and she can barely wait to finally get some real exercise. Watching from afar, another figure nodded, certain keeping those two in reserve was the right call for now. Orders crack and soldiers sprint to prime the cannons. The magical weapon won't be ready for 10 minutes, and one of the girls begs for more time, but a voice pleads with them not to overexert. One spots a vast swarm of wyverns bearing down, and another snaps they have to get out now. The girl with animal ears locks eyes, her tail flicking, and swears she'll have the situation sorted before the 10 minutes are up. The two girls lock eyes, resolve blazing, and roar they'll obliterate every last enemy. They thunder toward the battlefield, weapons bared, primed to tear into the wyverns and defend the area. He snarled, "Wyverns are monsters, deadly, merciless, and relentless." It tore across the sky on leathery wings, spewed searing flames, and slashed with razor claws and dagger fangs, despite the threat. She shot back, grinning, "We've got a former S-rank adventurer and a Fenrir on our side." A surge of confidence ripples through the group as the two fighters launch forward, shredding several wyverns with raw power and razor-sharp skill. After the battle, an onlooker stared, awe burning in their eyes, and shouted, "You're the strongest warriors in the village." The two girls stood encircled by the lifeless bodies of defeated wyverns. One of them crowed she'd taken down one more wyvern than the other, while her partner said the whole fight wrapped up far sooner than they'd expected. They trade playful jabs, one taunts the other as Theo's main wife, and the other lashes back, insisting they don't have that kind of relationship. Layla swallows and admits she can't unleash her full strength in that place. A massive shape slides through the shadows, snapping their heads toward it. More wyverns poured from the sky, spearheaded by a gargantuan behemoth towering above them. Monsters surge in from the opposite direction. They realize they're too far from the village to make it back in time. The relentless onslaught makes no sense, and the two girls bolt. Worry clenched them at the sudden turn. Soldiers obeyed the order and blasted the cannons. The wyverns cut through the projectiles with effortless ease. She spots the magical cannon still unready, and a cold knot of worry tightens. She squares her jaw and readies herself to take on every enemy if it comes to that. Without warning, a devastating brave slash tore through a pack of wyverns and stunned everyone watching, the fighters' faces snapping to recognition as a shadowy stranger hurled into the battlefield and turned the tide. Theo froze in shock as Alice strode onto the battlefield. She flashed him a smile and said, "It's been a while since we last saw each other." Alice flashes a cruel grin and taunts Theo, saying she heard he'd been expelled and sneering that he must have cried from loneliness. Embarrassment seizes Theo. He gives a sheepish thanks for her concern and insists he didn't cry. Meanwhile, Layla's relief explodes. "It's really you, Alice. Thank you for helping me in that battle," and Alice's gaze snaps to her. Yisha bolts forward and clamps Theo in a fierce, grateful hug, blurting out her thanks for protecting everyone again. Alice's gaze snaps to Theo. Beside Layla, two unfamiliar girls flank him, and shock rips through her as she takes in the scene. Alice spots a bustling village jammed with people, and frustration ignites. Her whole plan to comfort Theo has just collapsed. Panic claws at her as Theo snaps, "What's happening?" In the end, news exploded across the skies. The earth dragons and wyverns had been vanquished, and when the dust settled, the girls shimmy into yukatas, eyes alight with curiosity as they feverishly explore every fold and pattern. Leo declares every dragon rounded up, while she beams that everyone's dressed to the nines and proudly says she's happy she made the yukatas. The village is buried beneath a towering heap of slain dragon bodies. They trade war stories about clashing with swarms of monsters and argue whether to erupt into celebration. Tension crackles in the air, yet everyone can't stop raving about the open-air bath. She exhaled, calling it a rare, soothing calm after everything. Alice's gaze snagged on Theo. He'd shot up since they last met, and a friend remarks he looks happier than he did in the capital. Theo beams at the compliment, and though he was anxious when banished, he's now certain living here was the right choice. Theo blurted that she'd gotten so much cuter, and Alice froze, cheeks burning with mortified surprise. She snaps, "Don't get cocky just because you grew a bit," and Theo shoots back, "I was just being honest about my impression." Sana flashes a sly grin, teases Alice, and tells Theo not to worry. Alice is only blushing. When Alice heard Theo had been banished, desperation exploded. She hurled herself into a reckless rescue, laying bare how fiercely she cared for him. Alice's cheeks burn as she scrambles to cut Sana off before she can say another word. While the group rattles off the brutal trials they endured getting here, Theo hears that Alice decked Niels for joking about him, her anger snapping into a fist. Others called it risky, but Theo beamed and thanked Alice, saying her defense had made him truly glad. Alice's eyes fly open, and a burning blush floods her cheeks when Theo suddenly slips his hand into hers. Her friends egg Alice on to be bolder, daring her to reach for a hug, maybe even steal a kiss. All eyes snap to her, hungry for a reaction, while she freezes, clearly at a loss for what to do. Laurent crashes into the group, yelling for everyone's attention, his arms bound tight in rough rope. Villagers hauled him in to repent for bringing earth dragons into the village, bound him tight so he'd stay tied while he atoned, and the crowd gaped, baffled by the bizarre sight. Alice cuts in, voice razor-sharp, "Are you going to sell the dragon materials to the Bestia Company?" She drives home just how priceless these materials are. They siphon its blood into potent medicines, hammer its scales into stout armor, and fashion its claws and fangs into weapons that rip through any shield. Lawrence slams a glittering pile of gold down and snaps, "I've crunched the numbers 100 times. This dragon's worth every single coin." He scoffs, declaring that mountain of gold could fund a string of opulent mansions, and it still wouldn't be enough. Theo's dragon hoard has grown too big to handle, so he takes Alice's price for part of it and stipulates the rest be paid in equivalent materials. Theo's stance hardened like iron. Alice gaped at his sudden negotiating steel, and the whole room agreed to hash out the deal right then and there. Alice confessed, face flaming, that she couldn't stomach a single bite the whole trip there. Theo nods, voice tight, she's been through hell, and admits he's starving, then briskly beckons Laurent over, declaring the food must be ready. After crushing dragons and wyverns, the group erupts into triumphant cheers and swarms the great hall to celebrate. They hoisted their mugs and slammed them together, roaring with glee as they toasted the battle's hard-won success. Mid-feast, the girls burst in and triumphantly unveil the party's centerpiece dish. Dragon meat. Cheers exploded as everyone caught sight of the table piled high, with exotic meats prepared for the celebration. The villagers erupted in cheers at the sight of dragon meat, many confessing they'd never imagined they'd taste anything like it. Everyone raved about the smell, braced for the special meal, and dove into the dragon meat with ravenous enthusiasm. Theo sinks his teeth into the dragon meat, flavor explodes across his tongue, and amazement floods him. From the moment he arrived in that land, he'd survived on nothing but vegetables. Alice snaps, "Don't eat dragon meat from that place. The beasts are soaked in the region's toxic air." Theo reveals he wielded a divine hoe, cleansing the dragon meat and banishing its toxic breath. Everyone crowds Alice, insisting she join the meal. She wavers, then dares a bite of the meat. Convinced it's safe, Alice lunges forward and tears into the dragon meat. He gasps as the tender, delicious flavor explodes on his tongue, then raves about the jaw-dropping umami. Theo and the others erupted into cheers, roaring their approval as the feast proved a spectacular triumph. They erupt in rapturous praise, calling the dish flawless, every bite a tribute to the maids Layla trained. Voices ripple, they whisper these maids could outmatch regular soldiers, while the crowd showers them with thanks and dives headfirst into a raucous night of celebration. Even the Fenriers score their own specially prepared feast. The party rages beneath a velvet sky studded with stars. At the party, Alice stares off, lost in thought and barely touching her plate. Layla shoves a fork under her nose and barks she has to eat more to grow, while someone else teases she'll never get any taller if she doesn't sleep soon. Alice insists she can eat on her own, but her friends keep spooning bites into her with teasing grins, the room cozy and easy. Layla won't stop pushing food at her, and Alice bristles at being bobbied like a child. Girls swarm Theo, dangling sweets and brazenly claiming they already hold his heart. Jealousy ignites in Alice, and she vows to drive every rival away from Prince Theo. Alice's heart ignites with thoughts of love, and confusion soon erupts among the girls. Someone lashes out at Theo and the others, branding them indecent and spinning lurid fantasies about their actions even as they offer explanations. She admits she understands the reason, but she can't stomach the situation because it dragged both the maid and the beast girl into it. Heat floods Alice's cheeks, and shy but steady, she confesses she'd happily do the same with another girl. The others gape as the maid snaps, "Not on my watch," and ignites a shouting match, while Alice snarls a challenge, hungry for a fight. The air crackles with playful rivalry as Alice and the maid trade barbs over who's more mature, the maid smirking that it would be unfair to fight a child. Alice snaps, "I'm already 15, a mature lady." They keep going, the tension crackling between them. They hurled taunts back and forth until someone cut in and demanded they stop fighting. Perched on the moonlit village walls, the Night Watch scan the darkness and trade hungry whispers about sinking their teeth into dragon meat. Layla bursts in and slams down a steaming platter of dragon meat she'd prepared just for them, saluting the crew as she thanks everyone for keeping security. The guards erupted over Layla's food, worshipping her like a goddess as the barracks melted into a warm, laughter-laced calm. A lone guard spots danger and barks, "Warn Theodulf now." A breathless messenger barrels in, screaming that another monster is about to strike. Everyone snaps to attention, adrenaline surging, then relief hits when they realize it's a lone monster, not a horde. Their faces snap into alarm the moment they see that monster. It's not like the others, and dread floods them. The ground trembled as a colossal monster erupted from the horizon, its body a mountain come alive. Its absurd size struck everyone with pure terror. Gasps tore through the crowd as the new monster loomed mountain high, instantly declared a calamity-level threat. The group forges a whiteboard and a specialized pen with autocraft. Everyone gaped, convinced it was sorcery, as the pen bled ink without a single dip, and the strokes vanished like they'd never been there. They kicked the strategy meeting into motion, putting the new items straight to work. The Calamity-class adamant turtle looms on the horizon, bearing down on the village like a rolling fortress. Tough as the adamant mineral, it barrels forward and at breakneck speed should reach the place around noon the next day. Theo roars that cannons and swords shatter uselessly against the adamant turtle, which regenerates from every wound, and even spells and mighty warriors would falter. The turtle lashes out, unleashing a titanic mana blast. Theo growls that attacking the turtle is practically impossible. When it pounces, it bares its flank for a single, exploitable heartbeat. At that moment they'll aim the magic cannon dead into its gaping maw and unleash a blast to cripple it. They hatch a desperate plan, ram a bomb into the beast and blow it apart from the inside. They can't trust the magic cannon to fire true, so they evacuate the village. This turtle's onslaught could obliterate everything. Theo slams down orders and bolts the village defenses into place while the team sweeps through, evacuating everyone to safety. And the soldiers braced, hearts hammering, ready to fend off the turtle. Theo explodes into action, planting savage traps, bolting the walls tight, and digging a spiked pit to halt the giant creature's passage. Theo channeled raw magic, tearing a colossal wall from the air that slammed around the village and shielded it. He collapsed, blacking out from sheer exhaustion, then woke at dawn with a sick jolt. He'd pushed his power too far again and burned himself out. Theo jolts awake, stunned to find himself cradled on Alice's lap. She tells him she left him there because sleeping on the ground would have hurt his body. Even as he tries to refuse the title of Lord of the Land, Alice, fastening the last snare of her trap, snaps that he's already done enough and orders him to rest. Alice corners Theo, fire in her eyes, and snarls, "You always overwork yourself. Keep going like this and you could die from it." Theo remembers he already died once from sheer exhaustion, and an icy unease coils in his gut. He thanks Alice for always helping, but she cuts him off and says Theo was the one who'd always been there for her. Theo blanks on ever helping Alice. She snaps he's slow to notice, then recounts how the hero power first ignited in her at 8. She gaped, only a restaurant owner's daughter, and the hero power chose whoever it matched with, not the nobles or the wealthy. The castle's summons ripped her from ordinary life and catapulted her into a destiny she never saw coming. 8-year-old Alice appears on a battlefield, wounds and all, pushing through brutal training, while a ring of soldiers watches her every move. Adults hound her to get stronger. As she wouldn't even stand a chance against a goblin. The one who claims the hero's power is catapulted into the castle for brutal, elite training. Alice devours lessons in battlefield strategy, arcane magic, and swordplay, but this isn't training, it's brutal mind control, erasing who they are and forging them into living weapons. Alice strides through the castle as murmurs chase her, courtiers whisper flattering lines, each angling to charm her for their own gain. She trusts no one there, rants that everyone obsesses over hero, this and hero, that not realizing the hero power lets her hear every whisper. Alice thinks nobody calls her by her name, they only shout hero. They used her like a tool, shoved her into the shadows until she felt invisible, then the villagers shouted her name. Her world flips, she feels the fierce warmth of affection and the freedom of being treated like a real person. Still a child, Alice aches to return home, sobbing alone as the memory of that brutal moment slams into her. Right beside her stood the friend who'd pulled her through everything, hands steady and full of care. Alice remembers Theo carrying her through that brutal time. He suddenly appears, rushing to her side and asking if she's okay and if she's hurt. Alice's cheeks burned as she confessed she'd been too mortified to thank him before, then swallowed and admitted Theo had never seen just a hero. He'd seen the woman behind the armor. Alice grabs Theo, eyes blazing with gratitude, and declares she can only be herself because of him. She teases that while she sharpened her sword skills, Theo turned into a master of solitude. He waves it off, insisting it's nothing. He never had close friends. Alice beams, saying she never felt alone now that her mother and the garland were finally at her side, then leans to Theo and fires off a bold suggestion before they face the turtle. Alice catches Theo bringing up last night's favor, cuts him off, and flat out suggests, why won't he go for it with her? They're sitting shoulder to shoulder, primed to take the next step. Understanding hits Theo. He knows she means last night's favor and presses, why won't you try it with me? Alice's cheeks flare as she snaps at him, not to get any weird ideas, and reminds him he should already know how this favor is transferred. Theo jolts, and she frantically covers up, claiming she's only doing it because she'd feel awful if anything happened to him because he didn't help. Theo stammers that he only thought Alice might not want to do it, and Alice snaps, so you don't want to do it with me. The conversation instantly sharpens. Theo's eyes snapped wide with surprise as Alice, patience snapped, hissed quiet, and closed in, every muscle coiled to spring. Alice lunged to sink her teeth into Theo, but her jaw slammed shut and she ground her teeth together. She cries out, clutching at the pain as Theo goes pale and fear gnaws at him. Alice's eyes blaze with excitement as she declares she'll try again, and Theo's nerves snap tighter. Alice's face flares crimson, utterly mortified, while Theo grins and mocks her, snapping that she looks like a boiled octopus. Alice scrambles to cover her tracks, insisting she only passed on her favor, nothing more. Theo poured out a sincere thank you for everything she'd done. Inside, Alice admitted to herself it was a lie. Out of nowhere, Alice leans her head on Theo's shoulder, and he freezes, eyes snapping wide in stunned surprise. He thinks she's always longed for this, to stand with him and lay her true feelings bare. Alice backs away and declares she's done for now, then, to his shock, promises they'll pick this up after the battle. Theo flushes, bewildered, as she radiates confidence and lightly touches his hand before striding away. Alice pins Theo with a fierce stare and snaps that he has to survive the battle. If he dies, she'll be incandescent with rage. Theo smiles, beams, vows they'll win together, and his resolve hardens into a fierce determination. Theo stares at the castle as a memory slams in. He'd urged Martina to upgrade the magic cannon. Someone exclaims Theo has banished their fear. Another frets he's burning out. Theo snarls it's necessary. They're facing a calamity-class monster. Martina's fingers dance over the magic cannon circuit, eyes alight as idea after idea explodes into bold upgrades she can't wait to build. Theo appears and asks about the progress. Martina flinches, then snaps that she slashed the cannon's reload time, stretched its range, and ramped up its impact power just like he asked. Theo erupts with gratitude over the magic cannon upgrades, and Martina explains they can add extra magita fragments to skyrocket efficiency, but warns. The cannon could tear itself apart if you flooded it with too much magic. Still, Theo. He slams his fist down, declares the cannon will turn the tide of battle, then fixes her with a fierce look and thanks her for the help. He's convinced the girl keeps dodging him, even though he just wants to be friends. He spots Martina sneaking closer on silent feet, then she bolts away. Fenrir strides up, grinning, declares Theo wildly popular, and taunts him for being painfully slow to realize it. Theo strides up to the powerful woman and presses, "You're really not going to fight." She clamps down on her power. If she lets it loose, it would flare like a beacon and drag a deadly enemy straight to them. She throws herself between the danger and the villagers, vowing to protect them while Theo pulls off the one thing only he can do, and she praises him, calling him an interesting boy. Theo rips back the curtain, revealing a colossal house perched on massive wheels. An underground shelter offered no refuge from the giant turtle, so he cobbled together a rolling house and barreled the villagers to safety. He snaps that if the house is in danger, it must be rushed to safety, and he declares only he can pull this off. Theo bows with a grateful smile as the fox woman lifts her chin and vows to shield every villager with fierce devotion. Time bleeds into noon. The colossal adamant turtle bears down on the village. The tension spikes as the monster barrels closer. Theo and the team tense, hearts hammering at the idea of facing a calamity-class terror. They shout that the turtle's usually docile, never strikes unless provoked, and scramble to figure out what pushed it to attack now. Word slams in. Martina, combing through the wyverns they'd defeated, uncovered something eerily out of place. They uncovered residue of a mind control spell clinging to the defeated wyverns. Looks like the earth dragons, and even the giant turtle, were ensnared by the same spell, which explains the monster's bizarre behavior. It hits them. The village is under deliberate assault. Someone is orchestrating this chaos to bend a massive horde of monsters to their will. Pulling this off would gulp oceans of mana and devour priceless magical artifacts, costs only a royal family could shoulder. The spell devoured so many resources that they're convinced no new monsters will be sent to attack. Theo's gut clenches. The giant turtle is a boss battle, probably the final stand of the village attack. His heart hammers, not just nerves, and he thinks to himself that despite the situation. Theo's determined smile flashes as he even admits to himself he's fired up and hungry to meet the final challenge head-on. Theo braces to face the adamant turtle, vowing to pin it in place first, and the chapter opens on him manning the magic cannon as the hulking creature barrels toward the gates. He roars the command to start. The turtle barrels forward, each thunderous footfall ripping jagged cracks across the ground. The pit trap snaps shut as the giant turtle plummets in, slamming against the jaws and ending up utterly trapped. Theo roared with triumph at his plan's success, slammed his fist, and ordered every troop to prime the cannons and stand ready to fire. Cannons thundered, shells smashing into the trapped turtle. Ko snaps if they keep hammering it while it's immobilized. The turtle retaliates, unleashing a blast of mana from its mouth to defend itself. Theo explains that the moment the turtle spews mana from its mouth, they'll slam the magic cannon straight into its throat and tear it apart from inside. Gasps rip through the group as they spot the turtle. Theo, they shout. Theo's stomach drops as the turtle claws its way out of the pit sooner than he'd planned. He remembers he still has other ways to stop it and pins his hopes on Alice, the maid's iron strength, to hold the monster. Alice throws down a steely grin and accepts the challenge. The maid snaps for her to stay out of the way. They surge forward. Alice cleaves with brave slash as the maid draws Orstein's blade in a lightning silver flash, their strikes fusing into one devastating combined technique aimed straight at the enemy. Alice and the maid lunged in perfect sync, unleashing the silver brave death blade and carving a brutal X across the turtle's shell. The maid jerks a finger at the stone and hisses, "That's the tomb Prince Theo prepared." Alice snarls at the turtle to shut up and accept its fate. The turtle is slammed by the combined attack and staggers, wounded. Theo snarls for non-stop fire, "Shoot the instant you reload." Then she explodes in a victorious cheer, overjoyed they actually wounded the monster. While the cannons pummeled the creature's wounded spots, Theo bellows that the turtle is about to strike. Everyone snaps into position, and he roars, the moment of truth has arrived. The turtle roars and hurls a cataclysmic energy beam straight from its gaping mouth. The turtle rears, channeling a crackling energy blast straight down. Alice and Layla are suddenly trapped in its impact zone. Theo's gut drops. He can't jam a strike into the turtle's gaping maw, and with both of them directly beneath the target, panic ignites. Alice's eyes snap wide as the turtle pivots and locks its raging fury on them instead of the cannons. She snaps into action, screaming and sprinting to snag the monster's attention and bait it away from the attack. Layla rockets after her to help. Alice lured the giant turtle's gaze, vaulted right in front of it, demanded it lock eyes with her, and the monster opened its jaws. In that heartbeat, Theo zeroed his aim with surgical precision, saw Alice dead center in his crosshairs, and eased his finger onto the trigger. Alice blinks out of the crosshairs, gone in a heartbeat. Theo stood stunned, then Layla tore into the chaos, pulling Alice back at the last heartbeat, cradling her and hauling her out of harm's reach. Layla smirks, praises Alice for seeing through her intentions, and admits she genuinely expected Alice to throw herself into a suicide attack. Theo pounces on the opening, steadies the shot, and knows this is their only chance. Theo finally pulls the trigger, and the magic cannon roars, launching a blinding, searing blast straight into the giant turtle's armored shell. A lone shot tears across the battlefield and finds its mark, their last desperate gambit to snatch victory. The magic cannon's shot rips into the giant turtle dead-on and detonates into a colossal explosion. The whole group gaped at the impact, stunned and breathless as hope flared that the attack had landed. The giant turtle topples under the assault, defeated, and Theo explodes into triumph, throwing his arms up and roaring that they've won, they're victorious. Roars of joy explode as everyone celebrates their hard-earned victory over the turtle. Sana and her partner slam their blades together in a razor-sharp toast, grinning as they seal the bond of their teamwork. Theo hails the plan, but a teammate cuts in, reminding him this victory only happened because everyone pulled together. Theo shouted for Alice and Layla, then his gaze snapped to them. They were perched on a distant rock. Someone blurts that the maid darted here in a heartbeat, and the defeated turtle suddenly locks eyes with them, firing a razor-sharp glare. The magic cannon's blast slams into the turtle, and it still lives. Stunned faces watch as they realize this monster is far tougher to bring down than they'd imagined. The titanic turtle heaved itself up from the pit and bellowed, its roar ripping the silence apart. Everyone snaps to attention. It's suddenly wary, clamps its jaws shut, and probably won't open its mouth to attack anymore, so the group's next move just got a whole lot harder. A colossal turtle plows toward the group, its hulking bulk poised to obliterate the village at their backs. They'd thrown up an ironclad fortress, but everyone could see it wouldn't stand for long. The soldiers could die. A cold truth hits him. Clutching the turtle won't solve anything, so his mind snaps awake and races to hatch a new plan. He spots the colossal turtle barreling forward, catches a strange detail, and bellows the names of the Fenrir pups. They leap onto the wall, poised to act, razor alert and answering with fierce, determined barks. The protagonist implored the Fenrir pups to sprint a sealed letter straight into Luna and Aisha's hands. He grabs Silk and pleads to be dragged beneath the giant turtle's shell. He plants Sana at the helm of everyone and sprints off to set his plan in motion. Theo vaulted onto Silk and tore off, his snap decision leaving everyone stunned. Sana watches all the pieces clicking into place. She finally gets why her lady fell for him, and a cold certainty creeps in. Whatever Theo's planning, he might just pull it off. Santa bellows and unleashes the braver thrust, a devastating, full-force strike. Alice unleashes her technique, as Orstein snaps out his sword-draw silver flash, both tearing into the giant turtle in the exact same breath. Sana and Alice gape as their strikes glance off the giant turtle, while it hauls itself fully from the pit, utterly ignoring their assaults. They scoff at their blows or mosquito bites and steel themselves to try the combo again. The turtle rockets forward, smashing into them both and sending them tumbling into danger. A storm of mana howls in the turtle's mouth as it condenses a titanic blast, poised to smash the earth. Sana and Alice's blood ran cold as they realized the turtle planned to detonate itself with them, using its armored resilience and furious regeneration to absorb the blast and shield the monster's gaping maw from the magic cannon. Sana and Alice spot the turtles charging and sprint to escape. Alice tosses out a nervous quip. Sana snaps a complaint. They trade a sharp half-second argument, then lock eyes and zero in on what must be done. Alice snaps, "Sana, protect me," and rockets away to put as much distance as she can. They slam up shields and brace as the attack barrels in, nerves screaming if they'll make it in time. Theo roared, conjured a titanic spear of crackling magic, hurled it with everything he had into the turtle. It impaled the beast and detonated in a cataclysmic explosion, proving his new attack's terrifying power. Theo's heartbeat spikes as he scans Layla and Alice for injuries while they hurtle toward him, crying, "Prince Theo." He warns the turtles gone wary, clamping its jaws shut so the magic cannon's useless. They decide to retrieve the giant spear, but their stomachs drop at how exposed Theo is on the front line. Theo rallies the group and bellows, "There's only one way to defeat the turtle." He screams for everyone to look at the monster's belly. There it is, proof. His suspicion was spot on. They spot a jagged crack cleaving the turtle's shell, probably blasted there by the magic cannon, and Theo roars they'll only win if they land a crushing blow on that weak spot. The son of volunteers stiffens as Theo warns that, even though she's the strongest, ripping that part apart will be brutal. Then Theo flashes a grin and reveals he already has a plan. The group rallies behind Theo's plan, and the girls shout that he's about to march straight into danger. Theo flashes a cocky grin, swears he's fine, reveals there are still people ready to pull off the plan and that someone can help. Then a breathless figure bursts in, gasping they were delayed. Luna bursts in, Theo's letter fluttering in her hand as she gushes over his plans, admits she can't fight at full strength, and explains she evacuated the villagers and left them in Gorm's care before racing here. Theo waves it off and announces he brought Luna to help. Suddenly, they can cover 3 of the plan's 4 points, but one role still sits empty. Theo slams his palm down and declares the preparations are already done. Sana explodes with excitement, and the whole group snaps into readiness. They plant themselves before the colossal turtle, determination crackling in the air as Theo bellows that it's time to launch the final plan, and everyone locks onto the beast, ready to unleash the last maneuver. Aisha storms in, clutching smoldering wyvern shards and gasps, "Sorry I'm late. A voice snaps, "Shouldn't you have evacuated?" And she fires back, "Theo asked me to stay." They press her, "Do you know the plan?" And she fires back that Prince Theodult already filled her in. They pressed close, voices sparking as they hatched a plan to blast the turtle with a magic cannon fueled by the pulsing magical fragments. She warns they must rein in the shot's strength or it will explode. The power's off the charts, and a young man strides forward, volunteering to fire and boasting he's the village's best. He gaped at the cannon's control panel, an intricate maze of switches and glowing dials, and his jaw dropped at the sheer complexity. The girl with the hat throws caution to the wind and says she'll operate the magic cannon. "It's nothing like a normal cannon." Another guy admits he can't help much. The team scrambles to prepare, and a girl steels herself, remembering she must meet the prince's expectations. She storms into the meeting spot and thunders that razor-sharp teamwork and flawless timing are the only way the plan will work. At last she places her trust in the team and urges everyone to pull their weight. Theo, eyes ablaze with resolve X. One of them volunteers to fire the magic cannon despite its strange, volatile build. Another admits he can't do much. Theo steels himself with the prince's expectations burning in his chest and charges to the rendezvous, shouting that victory rides on perfect timing and teamwork and that he's counting on every one of them. So they keep the colossal turtle distracted as the fight drags on, exhaustion gnawing at them, until someone snaps, wins the signal. "We can't hold out much longer." As the battle rages, another chokes out that the task is brutal, while a sneering voice taunts Alice, "Tired yet?" Alice and the other girls snap at each other mid-fight, proving they're far from spent, while everyone else stares, stunned that they stay eerily calm with that monstrous creature looming. Panic claws at Theo over Martina's dangerous role and the cannon's volatile magic. Seeing the squad hold the monster at bay, he swallows his fear, steels himself to trust, and waits. She smirks, eyes sparking, and drops the bomb. She knows how to operate the magic cannon. Her stunt blew everyone away. Silence snapped into the air. One person demanded, "How did you learn that?" And she just answered, "I really know how to use the cannon," leaving the group buzzing with curiosity and doubt. She grinned and said she'd shadowed Theo every moment because it was her maid's duty. The others gaped that, with zero magic training, she'd mastered that impossibly complex art just by watching. Someone barks that Martina should man the cannon's power dial, while another pulls the trigger. It's far too risky to let her fire alone. Martina admits she could never fight. She hid behind others' shields, while everyone else charged the monsters, throwing their lives on the line. Martina burst forward and shouted she'll serve in the rear as a maid, hell-bent on backing Theo and holding up the entire group. They swear to shield Aisha with their lives if the magic cannon backfires. They vow to hurl themselves between Martina and any blast as a living shield, and Martina chokes out a grateful "Thank you" for their support. They rallied as one around the plan. When every last person stood ready, they primed the magic cannon and loaded it. Martina snaps into position as another voice barks the order to send the signal to the front line. It's time to attack. Their eyes snap to the cannon's signal flare, and Theo bellows for an all-out assault, commanding everyone to unleash everything they've got. Allies erupt in battle cries and spring into action, launching a coordinated assault straight at the enemy. They unleash a synchronized onslaught. Theo and Sana lock into a devastating joint strike. Fenrir twists into a feral behemoth and barrels forward, and one girl cranks her power to the absolute max just as. Martina slams a fresh charge into the magic cannon and lets loose a thunderous blast, while a fellow swordswoman unleashes her supreme technique, carving a clear path for Theo. One girl unleashes her signature sword technique, the blade erupting into a thunderous strike, and Theo and Fenrir explode forward as one, unleashing the crescent roaring slash, a thunderous crescent cut that rips into their enemy. One girl lunges and rips the air open with the bravest slash. While Martina unleashes the magic cannon's full blast at the enemy, she synchronizes the rest of the group's thunderous assault to hit all at once. They slam their powers together and obliterate all four of the giant turtle's legs. Theo watches rubble rain down like the sky tearing open, then roars his thanks to everyone for seizing victory in this part of the battle. She slammed the inventory to max and snapped, "I'll take it from here," while Theo, jaw hard, vowed the enemy would crush itself under its own weight. Responsibility passed and the battle turned. Theo slams his power into the earth, conjuring a colossal magic autocraft steel tower and priming it for a decisive new attack to turn the tide of the battle. Theo's steel tower crashes down onto the giant turtle, slamming the beast with a thunderous impact. The monster roars, a thunderclap proving its attack slammed home with brutal force. The tower slams into the turtle, striking it dead on. Everyone in the group explodes into relieved, triumphant cheers as the attacks land and their effects burst into view. The team erupts into thunderous cheers, shoulder to shoulder, roaring that the plan hit its mark. Theo slammed his fist into the sky as everyone cheered. The giant turtle lay defeated, relief crashing over the group and joy exploding, because at last they could live in peace again. Cheers explode as everyone hails Theo's brilliant masterstroke, and victory is declared. Adam and Turtle lie vanquished. Inside Fornia's towering castle, secrets hummed in the air. In his room, Prince Niels Forian basked in satisfaction. Sure, Theodolph and Alice were clawing at desperation. He'd burned through countless enchanted trinkets to fuel his mind control spell and didn't flinch at the price. Niels erupted in triumph after seizing the adamant turtle, certain this would destroy Theo's village, so he dispatched a spy who uncovered Theo quietly cultivating his land. He's even built a village, and rage boils in him as he waits for news of its destruction and of Theodolph. Then a breathless messenger arrives clutching an urgent report for Niels. Niels staggered back, breath gone, when he heard the adamant turtle had been defeated. He can't believe the news. He'd unleashed earth dragons and wyverns to grind the group down. They sank priceless resources and arcane relics into the plan, and when the messenger confirmed the news, Niels seethed with fury and bafflement, desperate to know how it had slipped through. The moment he hears of the defeat, Niels explodes. He slams his fist into the table and spits that Theo is a talentless failure, rejected by the goddess. Someone claws at an excuse, claiming Theo only won because Alice and Layla helped him, and Niels sneers that relying on others is the mark of the talentless. Rage boiled in Niels. He swore he'd still exact revenge on Theodolph and drag him down to hell, while Theo jolted awake, time-stunned and frantic, demanding to know where the adamant turtle is. Night crushes down on the battlefield, tension still crackling after the victory. Theo bolts upright and realizes the giant turtle was truly defeated. The villagers exploded with joy, racing toward him and showering him with jubilant greetings. They pressed steaming food into his hands and flooded him with worried, "You okay?" Then everyone erupted into roaring celebration as the threat finally ended. Theo insists he's fine, but when one of the worried girls wraps him in a hug, vertigo rips through him and he nearly blacks out. She clamps him to her so he won't collapse, eyes fierce as she says he's fragile, and pleads with him to stop pushing himself to the brink. Heat sears Theo's cheeks, but he lets out a sheepish laugh as she stays steady at his side, propping him up with quiet strength. Theo shot Alice a grateful grin and admitted he only snatched victory because the hero's power sharpened his prowess with divine magic. He reveals he dissected the skill before the battle and used that knowledge to summon a colossal steel tower. Alice declares she pitched in big during the fight, and Theo thanks her again for her help. Cheeks blazing, Alice forces a grin and declares she doesn't mind fulfilling the promise again. She gave her word to Theo. Alice beckons Theo into her room. He steps in beside her as she clicks the door shut and, voice like steel, vows she won't let him leave today. He flinches, then nods, and the room crackles with tense, hungry expectation. Alice presses a fierce, passionate kiss to Theo and declares, "I love you," again and again. Night flips her switch. She gets even more affectionate than she was by day, and Theo, caught off guard by the sudden change, can't hold himself back as her tidal wave of love crashes over him. Theo hurtles into the realm of the gods, confusion shredding his thoughts. Theo gasps, "Did Alice's kiss kill me?" The goddess replies, "No, you nearly died. A mortal body can't handle an avalanche of blessings like that." She clamps a hand on Theo and snaps that he must wait for the blessing to stabilize before accepting any more, Luna warned. The goddess lavishes praise on Theo for saving the villagers, slaying dragons and wyverns, and even felling the giant turtle, declaring he has surpassed all expectations. Theo thanks her, insisting he only pulled it off with everyone's help, and the goddess, crackling with excitement, beams that she's proud and rushes to reward him. She jokes, yet she'd lock him inside the god's realm and never let him go. He's that precious. The goddess plants a kiss on Theo, unleashing a brilliant new blessing into him as her reward. She dubs it a login bonus, says she tweaked his blessing, but could only spare a sliver since Alice had already poured so much into him. The goddess presses a glowing divine medal into Theo's trembling hands. She pleads with him to tell no one. Theo freezes in surprise, then beams and thanks her, vowing he'll keep working harder than ever. The goddess's smile widens, pleased by his fierce dedication. Sunrise yanks Theo awake. He blinks and sees Alice sprawled at his side, sunk into a sleep so deep it hushes the room. A week has thundered past since the giant turtles fell. Not a single monster has dared to strike since. The entire village basked in a rare, peaceful calm, but that calm was about to shatter. Theo zeroes in on two things that changed during that time. The village threw open its gates to the outside when a merchant rolled in with the contract's goods, and once everyone learned Laurent hadn't summoned dragons, they dropped their grudges. Now peace hums through the town, and trade talks roll on like any other day. The domain needs an official name to sign contracts, and Theo's jaw drops when he realizes the place still hasn't been named. And must pick one to lock into the contract. Theo slams his choice down and declares the official domain as Regalia, the Land of Kings, hides a village called Arca, its name lifted from Arcadia, the word for utopia. Laurent vows he'll ink those names into the contract. Theo unveils a field brimming with rice, ready for harvest, and Laurent freezes in disbelief. He's never seen this kind and knows rice here is usually inedible. Theo grins, saying he somehow grew edible rice and even cooked it in the castle, a rare miracle in their world. Theo can't forget the staple rice here, dry, brittle, and utterly tasteless, that sucks the flavor right out of every meal. He slammed the god medal into the goddess's palm and ordered her to fetch rice from Japan. She came back with kashihikari from Yunuma, the top-tier rice with Japan's highest grain rating. Theo's heart thundered. After 13 years without rice, he was desperate to harvest fast to serve his guests and shouted for help. Layla unleashes her sword technique, one lightning-quick cut, and she harvests everything in a single sweep. Theo rattled off the usual rice grind, drying, thrashing, peeling, polishing, weeks of work, yet Layla tears through it in hours. Theo even dreamed up a machine, then admitted she outpaces any invention. Theo unleashes his autocraft power, transmutes the freshly harvested rice into pearly white rice ready to cook, and a thrill rockets through him at the sheer convenience, after some time. Steam billows from the pot, rice cooked to perfection, hot and practically begging to be devoured. The scent of freshly cooked rice smacks Theo awake. He snaps into action, determined to whip up a classic Japanese dish. He sculpts the rice lightning fast into several warm onigiri, declaring they're a simple, comforting food from Japan, and Theo offers them to everyone. The group gapes, baffled by the rice's weird look and gummy feel. Some snap, "Is that even food?" while others grimace at how clingy and sticky it is. One girl steps up, takes a bite, and gushes that it looks great, but Theo sees the rest are underwhelmed. Still, everyone dives into the onigiri. They freeze, eyes wide, and blurt, "This tastes incredible." They gush over the rice, every bite soft, fluffy, sweet. Then Theo grins and reveals it's kashihikari rice from Yunuma. The group explodes into cheers, declaring the dish will become the village's signature and sell like wildfire, showering Theo with praise. She beams and throws her arms around Theo in a joyful hug, gushing that everything he does is amazing. Theo shrugs and credits good seeds and soil, and she snaps back, telling him to quit being so humble. Another character roars that even the choosiest elves would leap at a taste of this dish. Theo's breath catches elves live nearby. He spins to Luna and asks if she knows them, and she meets his eyes. There's an elven village in the land of death. Theo bursts forward, pleading with Luna to take him to the elves. He wants to befriend them, but Luna refuses on the spot, warning that elves aren't friendly and are prejudiced against people like him. Theo begs Luna to bring him to the elven village, swearing he can cleanse the poisonous air choking it. Luna freezes. She hasn't set foot there in over a century, but she relents to Theo's plea. She can't refuse him, and frets that the elves might be suffering, their homeland choked by the same toxic air. Theo stands firm, saying that as a resident of that world he'll help the elves. Luna nods, thanks him, and offers to lead him to the elven village, warning they may be hostile. Theo vows he'll handle whatever erupts, and Luna only begs one thing: don't overdo it. Theo's grin explodes as excitement races through him. He's bursting to dash to the elven village. Luna nods, falls into step beside him, and they stride away as the elven village unfurls around a towering tree at its heart. The day after the rice banquet, Theo slings on his pack, ready to head to the elven village with Luna at his side as his guide. Alice roars in fury at being left behind and charges after them, demanding to come along. They yanked her along as she tore into them, shouting she would never abandon Theo. They hurled reminders of her hero duties, but she brushed them off and kept insisting she'd stay. While Theo fantasizes about being swarmed by a bevy of stunning elves, Alice snaps, fretting they can't just toss him into that world. Another girl pops up and vows she'll watch Theo around the clock, day and night, and Alice snaps, irritation exploding across her face. Theo squeezes in a hurried goodbye to Alice, held tight by Layla and Sana. Layla booms she'll take care of him, and someone sharply warns her not to get carried away. Theo fires a quick good luck at Alice for her job, and Alice flashes a mischievous grin, asking him to make it up to her later. At last Theo and the crew implore to be led to the elven village, and with eager grins they surge toward their next destination. Theo and the group thunder onward, astride a massive white wolf. They call out if everyone's comfortable, and every voice answers, yes, as they savor the moment, nestling into the wolf's plush, velvety fur. Mid-journey, Theo whooped that the village had already vanished behind them. The wolf was a blur, and he gushed its fur was like silk and perfume, softer than any bed, so Layla, lulled by it, soon drifted off. They spread out and drank the sweeping view like fuel. 2 hours still stand between them and the elven village. As they traveled, Theo's gaze snagged on the surrounding land, empty, bleak, utterly desolate. He vows he'll one day purge that poisoned air. The wolf pleads with Theo to restore the land to the life it once had, and Theo swears he'll turn the deathly wastes into a vast sea of green. The group finally bursts into the forest cradling the elven village. They gaped, stunned to find lush green in the land of death, and then realized this entire sea of foliage survives because one colossal tree towers at the forest's heart. The group gapes at the colossal world tree, discovering its divine life force shields the forest from the poisonous air, but that life force is a pale shadow of its strength 100 years ago, so they decide to hurry. Several arrows slammed into the ground before them, jolting Theo and the group, and someone barked, "Retreat, Theo." He barks at everyone to clear the forest this instant, leaving no doubt they're not welcome there. An armed elf appears, weapon clenched, looking down with icy scorn and accusing the humans of being filthy and only ever chasing their own desires. Hostility and distrust crackle from her as she makes it clear she won't let them enter easily. Theo locks eyes with the elf, pleading he's no threat and desperate for a chance to talk. The elf explodes into a lightning-fast leap, blades a streak. Theo's gut clenches. He's a heartbeat away from being sliced open. Layla bursts in, effortlessly parrying the elf's strike and shielding Theo from the blow. She snarled that drawing a blade on the prince would carry consequences, and the elf, unbowed, planted his feet and refused to back down. She snaps that the same goes for humans, refusing to back down from the fight. Luna erupts in a surge of divine power, silencing the clash with one sharp command to sheath every sword, and the elf, struck by her overwhelming presence, stands awestruck. It's really her. Luna steps forward, voice raw. "Alina, are you okay? It's been ages since we last met." Alina freezes, eyes snapping wide at the humans at Luna's side, and she demands, "Why are you here?" Luna sweeps Theo into a hug and declares they're her friends. Theo reels as realization hits. She's over 100 years old despite her youthful face, and her last visit here was a century ago. Alina echoes friends softly, clearly moved. Theo implores the elf to whisk them straight to the village to speak with the chief, after locking eyes with Luna. Alina chooses to trust her and throws open the village gates, letting everyone in. Theo bursts into excited thanks, while Luna catches Alina's eye, sensing the unease still shadowing her. The elf snaps at Theo, forbidding him from using her name so casually, her voice carving a cold distance between them. Theo stared down the coming hardship and vowed to do everything, cleanse the village's air and forge a friendship with the elves, even as obstacles rose to meet him. The elves escort the group into their village, and suddenly Elinora appears, unmistakably their leader. She leads the way with a frosty glare aimed at every human. Theo watches, scheming how to win her over. He needs the elves' trust. The group sets foot in Ilfa, the elven village. Theo gaped at the suspended treehouses and how the elves braided their lives into the living wood, so unlike human villages. Alina says the chief's already been notified and beckons them to follow. Theo feels the air thicken and wonders if the forest's toxic air is to blame. As they step into the village, the elves snap to attention, eyes razor-sharp with hostility and distrust, and many flinch at the human in their midst. Theo tastes the crackling tension in the air, as each stare drags like a sack of stones under his feet. Doubt claws at him. He pictures elves scarred by humans' past betrayals. Theo reaches the village chief's house, heart hammering as he braces for a frosty welcome. He braces for disaster, but his jaw drops when a towering, muscle-bound elven chieftain steps forward and greets them with disarming, polite calm. He poured out thanks to Lady Luna and her companions, igniting a tiny blaze of hope in Theo that they might still talk things through. Theo's jaw dropped when the village chief turned out to be an elf named Anna Rose, a strikingly beautiful woman with a bold presence, who swept forward to welcome them warmly, thanking Luna and her companions for coming. Theo flushed and fought to keep his composure, thinking this was nothing like he'd expected, while Luna casually revealed she already knew Anna, and the two traded easy, familiar words that screamed of a long history. Anna Rose's voice cracks as she reveals her father died 10 years ago from the toxic air, his death thrusting her into the role of village chief. She clamps down the grief and demands why they came all the way here. Theo swallows and apologizes for bringing it up, saying he wants humans and elves to live and work together as residents of that land. Anoros, curiosity sparking, presses why he chose to build a village there from the start. Pressed about his real purpose, Theo freezes. Silk snaps that he must never tell the elves he's a prince. They see that authority, royalty especially, If they find out, they'll flat out refuse any talk, and Theo understands, but a storm of doubt rages inside him. He knows hiding this will strangle any real friendship, but he swallows his doubts and follows Luna's advice, convinced a secret identity will make things easier. Theo rips off his hood and roars that he's the third prince of the kingdom of Fornia, sent by his father to claim the land of death. The revelation explodes through the crowd, everyone staggered, Anna and Luna gape, the elves bristle with cold distrust and simmering rage, and Eleonora snaps her blade free, fury scorching her voice as she accuses Theo of trying to steal their home. Tension snaps as word of his royal blood ricochets through the elves. Just as Eleonora lunges at Theo, Anna rockets in, plants herself between them, and cuts her off with. A taut, commanding smile fixed her face as she snapped at her and forbade any aggression against the guests. Eleonora lunges into protest, but Anna slams it down, cold and fierce. She refuses to let those past incidents happen again. Anna's smile flashed like a blade. She snapped a ruthless, take no prisoners order, and Eleonora froze, shaken and silenced. Theo reels under Eleonora's restrained strike, but Anna steadies him, steers the conversation, and fires a blunt question. Why is the kingdom of Fornia trying to reclaim that land after so long? Theo's voice cracked as he ripped the truth free. His father's order was only a cover. Fornia never wanted the land. He was there for something else entirely. Theo's voice cracks as he reveals he was banished to the land of death, branded a failure and forgotten by the goddess. He vows with iron resolve to forge the place into a joyful home for everyone and earnestly pleads with Chief Anna for help, not as a prince, but as one of them living there now. Theo's request barely left his mouth before Anna snapped for every guard to clear the room, dismissing their worried protests. Alone now, Theo clenched his fists, tension coiling through him as he tried to guess the chief's next move. Anna crashes into a deep bow before Theo, pleading for forgiveness for her sister, Eleonora's rude behavior. Theo's eyes went wide and he shot back, "It's unnecessary." Then, Anna declares she has something serious to reveal and sends the guards packing. She's about to lay bare what happened in the village and the real reason the elves hate humans so fiercely. Anna slams the truth down for Theo. About 20 years ago, the elves, who had lived peacefully beside the world tree, began dying as poison tainted the air, and never having known life beyond their grove, they were forced to consider abandoning the only home they'd ever known. Anna drops the bomb. The elves had once reached out to humans, and when migration plans kicked off, they called on a human adventurer who'd gotten lost in the forest to help. They dressed his wounds, forged a fierce bond, and kept in touch even after he returned to the city. He was the one who helped map out the move south. The elves poured all their faith into the human adventurer, blind as he steered them straight into a deadly trap. Anna snarls she was betrayed, dragged off and shackled, forced to watch the man they'd helped stand there with a cold, triumphant grin. Anna's eyes went ice cold. She confirmed it was a trap. The elves reached the migration site, and a ring of armed humans slammed into place around them, weapons flashing and tension crackling in the air. They were slave traders, sizing up the elves like prized cargo to unload for a hefty profit. Anna bellowed that the elves poured every ounce of strength into the fight and clawed their way to freedom. They snatched her for lagging at the rear, but her sister burst in at the last second, yanked her free in a heartbeat, and she walked away practically unscathed. Anna explains the human attack ignited a wildfire of hatred among the elves, and in her sister that blaze turned into a razor-edged contempt. She admits not every human is evil, but most elves have lost faith in humanity and won't share her optimism, so the group was met with icy, hostile silence. Theo declares, determination blazing, he'll win the elves' friendship, even knowing it will be difficult. Anna freezes in surprise when he vows to give it his all. His grave resolve cracks a smile and a soft laugh from her, breaking the tense air. The village leader laughs and urges Anna to give Theo one shot, insisting he can change the whole village. A soft hand grazes Theo's ears and his cheeks flare crimson. Anna watches, and the last skeptics trade uneasy glances as a cold certainty settles. They can tell he's not like other humans. With a sharp nod, the elven leader declares Theo welcome to stay in the village, his trust anchored in Lady Luna's recommendation. Gratitude blazing, he begs to explore. Anna nods, wary but willing, and falls into step beside him, while Theo scans a village that sprawls wide, room for about 100 people. Theo threaded through the village as elves fired suspicious, hostile glares, every look screaming they didn't want humans here, and the air pressed heavy against his chest. Probably the miasma was eating the air. Even with the world tree straining to hold the pollution back, it couldn't fully protect, an elf staggered. Theo snaps, they must purge the poisonous air before anything else. A young elf suddenly blacks out and crashes to the ground, the fruits she carried tumbling from her hands. Theo sprinted to her, worry scorching his voice, but another elf cut him off, leveled a sword at him, and barked to stay away from the villagers. The rift between elves and humans couldn't be clearer. Layla gets chewed out for leveling her sword at Theo. Again, and even with her sister's permission, she's slapped with a blunt warning, don't act rashly. Luna cuts through the bickering, steps between them, and snaps that they're here to befriend the elves. Theo steps forward, insisting he'll brew a life-saving medicine for the frail elf, and Alina drops her guard, swearing they won't betray Anna's trust. Layla jeers at Theo for wanting to play doctor. He's just a kid, but with narrowed eyes and a wary smirk, she grudgingly lets him try. He drags Theo into a dim room where dozens of sick elves lie wasted, blaming humans for this misery. She watches, convinced that seeing it will finally force Theo to face the cruel reality the elves endure. Theo swoops in to examine the ailing elf and in a heartbeat, pins the culprit. Poisonous air. Frustration seizes him. This isn't a run-of-the-mill epidemic. That poisoned air is draining her body in magic and racking her with pain. The diagnosis slams down. The girl, Lumina Root's Fork, is suffering because of it. In their world, they whisper that anyone touched by this air is beyond salvation. Theo's heart dropped as he realized that if nothing stopped it, the poisonous air would choke every elf alive, while a desperate mother shoved him aside. A memory snaps back. That same dark pattern had marred wyvern meat, the stuff only safe to eat after purification, and suddenly the pieces click into place. He realizes the same method can save her, tosses aside any thought of retreat, and determined to rescue the elf girl, Theo hoists his magical tool and orders everyone to step back. The elves stagger back in shock, baffled by his intent, and one barks to have him arrested at once. Theo shrugs off the chaos, slams his will into summoning and bellows, Divine Hoe. The instant Theo touched the girl clutching the Divine Hoe, a blinding light exploded outward, leaving everyone around gasping. An elf gasps, "What's that searing light?" As the elf girl stirs, her eyes snapping open in relief while the poisonous mist finally loses its grip. Theo slams his enchanted hoe down in front of everyone, and a blinding light explodes around Lumina. She rockets to her feet, perfectly healed, and the elves stare, jaws dropping as every trace of pain vanishes from her. Lumina beams at him, gratitude blazing in her eyes as she thanks him for curing her. A triumphant grin spreads across Theo's face. He's ecstatic with the result. He asks to examine the other affected elves and gets the nod. Adrenaline surging, he clamps his magical hoe like a lifeline, sure he can heal them all. Having cured every elf, Theo's companions explode into cheers, villagers rush forward to pour out thanks, and the elves who once watched with suspicion step out of the shadows and begin to open up. Theo, buzzing with satisfaction, says they'll pick it up again tomorrow, when a voice slices through the air and cries, "Wait." Theo was about to step out when Alina's voice sliced the air, calling his name. Her gaze softens into gratitude as she thanks him for healing the villagers. Theo's jaw drops. He hasn't even opened his mouth when she yanks her hand back and snaps, "Don't get the wrong idea." Alina lashes into Theo, accusing him of patching symptoms while the toxic air suffocates the village, and she warns the World Tree is their shield, but corruption gnaws at the World Tree, draining its strength. Theo vows he'll heal the World Tree itself too. Theo and the group burst into the clearing and gaped as the World Tree loomed above them, its colossal trunk devouring the sky. Theo bursts out, eyes blazing. It's really the legendary World Tree. Theo touches the World Tree, and a bolt of recognition explodes through him. Its aura matches the goddess's and Luna's. He reels as the tree's divine power bleeds away, spots dark patterns seared by the toxic air, and realizes that cleaning those blighted patches might revive the tree. Luna leaps in to help. Theo conjures his divine hoe with a roar, slams it into the bark, and its radiant power strips a shadowed blot from the World Tree. He whoops, fists in the air after conquering the spot, itching to scrub the rest, and Luna watches, wide-eyed. While the result sends everyone into a roaring frenzy. Theo charges the World Tree, battling to purify several tainted spots. Soon he watches dark patterns slither back into places he'd already purged. Exhaustion drags him down, and fury flares as he realizes it's not the tree's size, but a deeper corruption blocking total purification. Anna spots Theo, hollow-eyed after an all-night battle to purify the tree, and warns him every desperate effort is useless. She declares the only way to save the World Tree is to root out the source of the toxic air poisoning everything. They've tried every desperate fix, even chopping parts of the tree, and nothing worked, and Anna thanks Theo, but admits this battle is beyond him. Theo scoffs at Anna's warning and plunges, alone, into the poisoned haze to hunt down its source. He bolts off to investigate, leaving everyone stunned by that sudden attitude, and across the room someone calls to Luna, eyes glued to the object she's clutching. The elves turned up their noses at the humans' onigiri, declaring they eat only elf food. Luna pleaded with Alina to take a bite, but Alina shook her head and refused. Luna slams down a dare. If the adult can heal the world tree and remake the village, Alina has to eat an onigiri. If he fails, Luna demands nothing. Alina sneered that no human could heal the world tree, then seized the bet and vowed that if Theodolph succeeds, she'll grant any command he gives. Luna snaps, "I'm collecting on that promise," a thrill crackling through her. All night Theodolph scoured the tree, ripping at bark and probing tangled roots, but the source of the poisonous air eluded him. That morning he rushes in to greet Lumina and Lyra. Both look much better and light up at his arrival. They answer cheerfully, their smiles proving they're on the mend. Theo snapped, "What are you doing?" And Lumina and Lyra answered that they were praying to the world tree. They hailed the world tree for shielding the elves from the poisonous air and begged for lasting peace. Lyra says the tree is sacred to the elves and that she went there to talk to it. Lyra swears she can sometimes hear the world tree's voice, and Lumina waves it off, telling her to ignore it. She leans in and says their grandmother would spin eerie tales, insisting the tree wasn't just wood, but harbored a restless soul. He remembers speaking once. Now he suspects Lumina dreamed the whole thing. Lyra jabbed a finger skyward, eyes wide, shouting she could hear a voice from above but couldn't make out a single word. Theo's curiosity snapped alive. He hadn't scouted that part yet. Theo grabs Lumina's hand, voice raw with gratitude, thanks her for telling him about the tree's voice and swears he believes her. Lumina beams, sweeps Theo into a tight hug, and declares she loves him like a brother. Theo believes that if he can corner the voice and get it to talk, he'll trace it straight to the source of the toxic air. Theo vows to scale the world tree's summit. Lumina insists a voice called from its crown, and he's going to find out who. Elders swear the tree has a soul. It's soaring high, and Theo waves off ladders, bracing himself to climb. Anna lunges and hoists Theo up before he can react, snapping, "Don't bite your tongue." Surprise slams into him, and before he realizes it, Anna rockets forward, pulling him along at breakneck speed. Anna rockets skyward with Theo cradled in her arms and sails clean past the landing spot. The height and speed slam into Theo like a reverse bungee. Anna sees his terror and asks, scared. It screams at Theo to grab her and never let go. Heart hammering, he obeys. Theo still clings to Anna, arms locked like he's never letting go. He admits his legs are shaking. Anna urges him to get down now, but he freezes, and she jokes she'd stay like this forever, though that would be a problem. Leaves erupted into a rustling frenzy as a cloaked, mysterious voice called out to Fenrir and the goddess's apostle, freezing them both in wide-eyed shock. Leaves burst apart as a woman strides out, naming herself Illumia and saying she can be seen as the world tree's very soul. Illumia's smile sharpened. She'd been biding her time, waiting for people brimming with the immense power they wielded. She rasps that the poisoned air steals her strength, so she can speak only with those bearing fierce divine power. Theo's eyes snap open as he realizes Illumia is the very soul of the world tree, just as the elves warned. Theo begged to be put down. Luna tightened her hold and refused. Then the Lumia burst in and coolly asked, "Am I interrupting?" She reveals that small children harbor a spark of divine power, so Lumina could hear her voice. Then Illumia says souls ascend to the divine realm when they die, and when they reincarnate, they cling to that power for a while. Illumia bellows that even the priestesses of the sacred tree can hear her voice. A tiny, rare handful of elves are born imbued with the tree's divine power. These become priestesses of the sacred tree, and in ancient days they were revered as the tree's voice. Anna and Alina brand the climb sacrilege and refused to ever set foot on its summit. Illumia claims she wanted to commune with the elves, so she bestowed her power on those who could bear it. Illumia's voice trembles with gratitude for their intent to heal her, then she snaps, "It won't be easy." She snaps that her body is packed with deadly gas, her very insides are the poison's source. Theo and Luna reel as the truth hits. This problem is far worse than they ever imagined. Luna and the other elf reel as the world tree's inner corruption is far worse than they'd imagined, and they realize Theo truly communes with the tree. The elf breaks the rules and grants Theo permission to cut into the tree's trunk to try to heal it, an act normally forbidden. The two elf sisters surge forward, swearing to stand with Theo. They won't let the humans shoulder every risk alone. Theo lunges forward, offering to forge tools, but the elf waves him off, insisting they aren't necessary. Trusting her magic, she rips open a glowing path straight into the tree's heart. The elf unleashed a surge of magic, ripping a glowing passage through the tree's heart. Theo's jaw dropped at her power as the whole group plunged into the hollow together to solve the problem. The instant the group slips into the tree, toxic air slams into Theo, and a weird, prickling unease creeps under his skin. The elf snaps to the threat and slams a shimmering barrier around them all. Theo blurts a grateful thank you, and she says, everyone's safety comes first. Toxic air claws at Layla's throat, and she collapses. Brutal proof the tree's hollow is a choking, deadly trap. Theo bolts to her side and floods her wounds with raw magic to mend her. The others call out that they're all right, but Theo's mind claws at one question: why was only Layla struck? Layla apologizes, voice cracking. She can't withstand the toxic air. Without divine power, she has no protection. Luna's voice slices the air. Only Theo, Anna, and Alina can enter. They're the only ones with the resistance. Anna's voice trembled as she warned the toxic air could still kill them even with resistance. Theo set his jaw, surged on, and barked, leave the rest to me. Theo roars he'll save Illumia and the elves, eyes blazing and fully aware of the danger. Anna and Alina surge forward, shouting it's time to repay the tree for protecting them, and Alina vows to slice through the toxic air with her sword. Catching the iron in Theo's stare, Jenna pleads for him to come back safe, then slams her palms together and sends a crackling protective spell his way before he steps in. Anna lunged in and planted a surprise kiss on Theo, knocking the words clean out of him. Alina and the other elf froze, breath caught and eyes wide as the scene unfolded before them. Anna grips Theo's arm, voice urgent, don't pull anything reckless, I've already repaid the favor. Theo gives her a grateful nod, then he and the others steel themselves and step to enter the tree. Alina calls out good luck, urges them to be careful, and says they'll wait outside. Theo, Anna, and the others plunge deeper into the tree's heart. The toxic air thickened, every breath a sting, and someone snarled that the tree's core was almost within reach. They spot the area is unnaturally open, and the whole group snaps to attention. They burst into a clearing as a searing light explodes from the heart of the tree's core, ringed by pulsing magical sigils. Anna snaps the toxic air caused it, and the group reels at the tree's core, slick and mottled with dark stains. Anna's gaze snaps to an even darker, eerier area. A flash of danger slammed into her. She exploded. Everyone run. Several roots explode into a sudden ambush, catching the group flat-footed. The attack shredded Anna's magical barrier like tissue, leaving everyone reeling as they finally realized they'd gravely underestimated the danger. A writhing colossus of roots explodes from the world tree's heart. A chilling grin cracked across his face, announcing the danger wasn't just pollution. That corruption birthed a twisted abomination. They freeze as a hulking tree monster rises. It's a treant, so Theo slams a burst of magical analysis into it and cries that it's no ordinary treant. Out of the shadows surged an even stronger variant, the elder treant. The group tensed, hearts pounding, as they realized this monster had been poisoning the world tree by snaking toxic roots into its core. With a towering enemy looming, Theo roars a call for unity. The girls flash fierce smiles and pledge their magic, and the whole squad steels itself for battle. Out of nowhere, several roots erupt and savage the group, catching everyone off guard. They realize the poisonous air has supercharged the roots into armored tendrils and fight tooth and nail to defend themselves. With the roots multiplying and hardening, one girl screams at Theo to run now before the attack catches him. Theo sees the roots puppeted by the poisonous air and snaps into action, wielding his divine hoe, which cleaves through the roots with brutal, effortless force. They slash and parry through the onslaught, but the group is barely holding. Enemies swarm from every side and the poisonous air hangs thick, clawing at their lungs. Theo watches the roots thrash with power and knows the enemy will soon be ground down by the impossible task of controlling them all. He suddenly suspects the monster is siphoning poisonous air up through its own roots, feeding and fortifying itself. Their jaws drop as they watch the monster siphon power from an almost limitless well of energy. Alina yells for time, channeling her fire magic. She's certain the enemy will crumble beneath her flames. Theo vows to throw his whole body into Alina's defense, every last ounce of him, while Anna, eyes blazing, snaps that she'll protect her sister herself. Alina ignites a titanic spell as Theo and Anna throw themselves at the monster's writhing roots to shield her. A root lashes out like a living whip. Anna snaps into action in the same heartbeat, intercepting it and sparing Alina the blow. Anna halts the monster's attack dead in its tracks and snaps at it for reusing the same move, while Theo watches, breath frozen. She's terrifying when she's serious. The monster bristles with unease, utters no sound, and watches us in dead silence. A root lashes out, coiling through the area to strike Anna's sister from behind. Anna sees it and screams, "Run." She still hasn't spotted the danger stalking her. Theo forges an iron wall with his autocraft skill at the last heartbeat, halting the monster's root attack cold and saving Alina. Relief hit them like a wave after a last-second escape, and Alina and the other elf froze in shock when Theo suddenly appeared. We're plotting to conjure objects from thin air and wield a hoe that strips the poison from the air, and Theo realizes even iron is buckling under the strain. Moments later, the elf proclaims she's ready and throws them both a grateful thank you for their help. The elf starts casting magic. Her hands blaze as she rips open the air, summoning wind and fire at once and wielding savage dual magic. She unleashes Flamestorm, Velzard, ripping the sky open as a raging storm of fire devours everything. The elf sister beams, shouting praise for her sister's earth-shattering magic. She declares she alone can cast 2 advanced spells at once and fuse them into a single devastating strike. Theo whistles that it's scorching hot. The elven caster beams, certain her blast hit the enemy dead-on with full force. But suddenly she's blindsided. Something lunges from behind and clamps down on her, squeezing her and catching her completely off guard. Here is your text translated into English, every word and detail intact. The tree's tentacles yanked Anna the elf up, flipped her upside down and left her dangling even after she cast her magic, and she screams, terror shredding her voice, while her sister and Theo frantically call her name. Gasps rip through everyone as the tree monster, unbowed by the mighty spell, lashes out again, roots whipping into a living shield that both guards and strikes. Theo yells that it's hiding behind root armor, and Alina sprints in only to be warned the beast is far from beaten and still deadly. Alina lunged to attack, but several roots burst from the ground, coiling around her and pinning her in place. Theo's voice explodes, Alina, fear lacing every syllable. Alina's eyes snap wide as the truth of her mistake slams into her. She'd misjudged the enemy, and Theo watches the roots already coiling around the two. If he doesn't cut them free now, those roots will strangle them to death. While he scrambles for a plan, he also faces fresh enemy attacks battering him, feeling the pressure close in from every side. Theo keeps slashing with his divine hoe, ripping the choking roots apart to free Anna and Alina. He can purify only one root at a time. Despair crashes over him. At this pace, he'll never clear them all, and both of them stand on the brink of mortal danger. Theo watches the root cinch Anna and Alina tighter, but they shout for him to lock his sights on the monster. They'll hold on. Theo refuses to abandon them and bolts to their rescue when someone suddenly screams for him to watch out for something behind him. Roots slam into Theo as he throws himself between the enemy and the others. Alina's world freezes. She thinks he's gone, and the monster roars in triumph, convinced it has won. The roots detonated with brutal force, sending shockwaves that left everyone reeling. The monster and the girls cower in fear as a smiling goddess materializes and proclaims she'll unleash divine metal now. He unleashes his auto-creation skill and forges a colossal divine axe that roars to life, ready to cleave the enemy. The protagonist watches the hoe fail and vows to forge a weapon so mighty it will purge everything with a single, earth-shattering strike. He barrels into the writhing roots, tears the 2 girls free, then skids up and shouts, "Are you okay?" The 2 girls showered him with grateful thanks for the help. They spot their torn clothes and cringe, mortified as shame blazes across their cheeks. He snapped his eyes aside, insisting he wasn't looking, as the 2 girls fumbled at their clothes and begged him not to stare. Adrenaline surged as he realized the axe he'd forged was made of a strange metal, cleaving trees and purging the poisoned air, and he was convinced this weapon could win the battle. The protagonist rockets at the monster, then a tangle of roots erupts from the ground and lashes out at him all at once. Alarm jolts the girls. They realize it's dire as the enemy instinctively senses the axe as a threat. The monster erupts more roots to defend itself, and the protagonist sees with a cold lurch that even the divine axe might not cut through that tangle alone. Layla channels her power into him, igniting his kinetic vision and blasting his body with supercharged speed, strength, and reflexes. Bolstered by reinforcements, he rockets in with the divine axe, unleashing a flurry of lethal, pinpoint strikes that tear through the monster's roots. The elves froze, jaws slack, at the protagonist's lightning-fast agility and no. He hurls himself into the fray, burning through every ounce of strength to save them, even though he owes them nothing. They surge to his aid, baffled he's pouring himself into the elves' cause after everything those elves spat about humans. The elf's heart suddenly drums in her chest as she watches him move, and he explodes toward the enemy, blade arcing to deliver the finishing blow. The protagonist lunges and rips into the monster's root shield. He spots the enemy bolting on extra layers of protection, but he keeps slashing, relentless until the defense finally snaps. Relentless, the protagonist hammers at the root shield. Alina spots him fixating on the monster's defenses and snaps a sharp warning. The protagonist thanks her, and she softens, visibly touched by the recognition. He spots Alina's face flaming red and blurts, "Did the root's toxic air infect you?" Alina's cheeks go hotter. She stammers she's fine and pleads, "Don't look at me." She steels herself, gaze laser-focused, and barks, "Retreat now." The Treant surged into the fight, hitting harder, so they fall back, regroup, and charge again. There's nowhere left to run. Layla pounded into him that if an opponent only defends, their guard will crack and an opening will burst wide. He steels himself and keeps hammering the Treant, hunting for any opening, while Alina notes this isn't a normal foe. It seems to draw on endless power and sprouts new roots the instant the old ones are severed, yet the group keeps the pressure up, pounding it until the monster is forced to defend. He bets everything on one last move, activates his inventory, and hurls the divine hoe with savage force. Alina stares, stunned, unable to tell where he's aiming. He zeroes in on the risky gamble, every fiber of him fixed on that dangerous attempt. Alina's face twists in confusion as she scrambles to pinpoint where he's aiming, and he pours every ounce of himself into the attempt, begging Anna to cast a reinforcement spell on him. Anna falters, then agrees, and he steels himself to launch an all-out attack, holding nothing back. The protagonist ignites twin blessings at once, gaining extra power against foes shrouded in poisonous air, while his body and weapon skills sharpen into lethal mastery. Pain rips through his entire body from the strain and the reinforcement spell, but he grits his teeth and storms onward, dead set on making this work. The protagonist delivers a thunderous blow that rips out and shatters several of the monster's roots. Alina stares, awed by the strike's power, and fires a warning. The monster can regrow its roots in seconds. He just grins, says don't worry, he's already got a plan, while the monster lounges, smug and utterly unbothered. The protagonist sees the monster locked on him, blind to whatever's hurtling from above. Alina realizes the hoe she flung was aimed straight at the Treant's core, and they dare hope it might be the final blow as everyone holds their breath to see if the beast will fall. He hurled the hoe, it slammed into its target, but it didn't inflict any direct damage. The tree wore only patchy wounds, and the two sisters called the attack a failure. The protagonist grins and admits it was exactly what he wanted, while the monster cackles, sure nothing's wrong as its roots snake outward, swallowing the ground. Out of nowhere, a searing pain rips through the Treant and it freezes, its roots going dead, still in the soil. The girls realize the protagonist's blow hit a trap, and it snaps into place. The monster screams as searing pain rips through it and everyone stares, stunned. The girls' jaws drop. The protagonist unleashed the hose's divine power to cleanse the earth, forcing the Treant's roots to drink it, and that purity turns into poison that devours the monster. The tree and shield implode into nothing, leaving the creature exposed. The protagonist charges in to finish it, veins alight with a vow to defeat it once and for all. He lunges at the Treant with every ounce of strength, bellowing, "This is for the pain you caused Illumia and the elves," then slashes a decisive blow that severs the monster's arms. The Treant careens across the earth and slams to a halt, defeated. The protagonist watches as two elf girls appear in another scene, lift their heads from prayer, trade a quick whisper, then slip away together. She belts out a grateful "thank you" to the one who guided her to Theodolph. Suddenly, a mysterious voice rips through the air. She whips her head around and... She stops dead before a towering tree, and a voice replies, "You're welcome." It hits her. The tree itself just spoke. The girls gasp as the world tree's poisoned breath begins to clear. Could the source that poisoned its roots finally be gone? Relief cracks across Adolph's face as he asks, has the world tree regained its divine power? The girls beam and thank him. One of them sprinted to Theodolt, flung her arms wide with a bright smile and cried, "Thank you very much." She clamps onto him like an anchor, and he freezes, face flaming with embarrassment at the sudden contact, stunned by how impossibly soft her touch feels. Anna's voice snaps with worry as she urges her sister to back off. He might not like it, while Alina jitters, paralyzed because she has no idea what to do. Crimson with embarrassment, Anna clamps onto the adult, convinced that if she pulls away his eyes will fall on her breasts, so she squeezes him tighter. The adult's skin prickling with discomfort, asks her to take her hands off. Anna keeps holding, distracted, terrified the space around them will snap shut. Alina watches leaves whirl through the air, and Theodolph feels the weight of the brutal slog ahead to restore the place, but clings to a stubborn hope that everything will be fine. The world tree's soul unfurled before them, its voice thundering as it thanked them for purifying the poisonous air. Anna and Alina's breath catches. They've found the tree's soul. Illumia, the soul, announces she entrusted the mission to Theodolph and is overwhelmed with gratitude that he succeeded, then thanks them both for their help. Illumia catches the awkward scene and jibes that she's interrupted them again. Anna and Alina flush and protest their clothes only tore in battle, and Illumia's smile drops. She confesses she's running out of time because her wound was grave, so Alina pleads, will her divine power return now? Illumia cuts in, snapping she hasn't finished speaking. Alina stares, incredulous. Did we defeat the monster for nothing? Theodolph frowns, certain he's been handed a soap or a bath bomb. Illumia reveals it's the world tree's seed. She could create it only because they purified the poisoned air. Illumia's eyes flash as she declares that once they plant the new world tree seed, she'll sink her roots into it and make it her new home. She's done this before in other lands. She refuses to stay. This place suffocates under toxic air. She demands fertile ground, preferably somewhere already settled, and the adult's thoughts snap to his village, the only one in the region. Some elves fell silent, trading sharp glances, and Theodolph scoffed that a faction of them loathed humans and would likely refuse to have the world tree planted so close. The two lead elves vow the world tree is their home. If it ever moves, they'll uproot everything and follow it without a second thought. The elves press him, asking to settle in his village, and one even promises that if her sister and Lady Illumia agree, she'll accept him as their chief. The adult freezes, jaw-dropping, utterly stunned as someone dubs them chief. Desperation clawed at the adult at the thought of becoming chief of the elves. He pleaded with them to wait, eyes wide in stunned disbelief. The elves press, "Are we not good enough to be accepted? We heard your village is recruiting new residents," and Theodolph shifts, nerves prickling. He says he'd be thrilled if they went to the village, but he didn't mean it like that. Theodolph sneered, "There's no way every elf will accept him as chief. He's human and just arrived. That'll ignite a roaring wave of discontent." The elves roar that everyone now reveres him. He vanquished the Treant, saved the world tree, earned Lady Illumia's recognition, and rose as the elves' hero. Alina confesses she'd normally stand against Theodolph, but his staggering achievements force her to respect him. He sees no reason to turn the elves away. His power can raise brand new houses, and he's dead sure the villagers will rush to welcome them. Theodolph officially welcomes every elf into the village, and the whole place erupts into joyous celebration. They lock hands, forging a bold pact. They're ready to live together. The soul of the world tree thanks them and declares she entrusted the seed to the right person. Theodolph snaps, "What will happen to the current world tree?" And she warns that without her soul the tree will wither and slowly rot away. The tree's soul declares the soil will be purged of the toxic air's poison, and over time the forest will explode back into bloom. She beseeches him to come the moment that day dawns, and Theodore swears he'll be there. The tree's soul bids everyone farewell and begins to dissolve, pressing a last kiss to Theodolph's forehead as she begs him to watch over her children, the elves. Theodolph vows he'll protect them and promises he'll see her again. The elves gape in stunned silence while Alina pouts, cheeks burning, scrambling to smother the jealous sting of that forehead kiss. Lumina smirked and pointed out that Lady Illumia had been faster and had shot ahead. Alina, cheeks blazing, snapped she didn't want to anyway. Theodolph snaps, "What are you talking about?" Alina growls, "Stay away," jerks the conversation off course, and moments later everyone scrambles back because the job's nowhere near finished. Back from the world tree, Theodolph bursts in as Layla and Luna rush forward to greet him. They both sprint at him and launch into the same hug, sandwiching him between their arms. They crushed him in a frantic hug until the air left his lungs. Theodolph summoned every elf, ripped the veil off what happened at the world tree, and urged them to pack up and come live in his village. The elves gasped at the call to migrate at such a furious pace, doubt knotting their throats and worry painting their faces. An elf leans in and snaps at Selenora, "Do you really agree? It's a human village," while Theodolph nods, knowing asking them to accept everything at once would only leave them baffled. Doubts flicker at first, but the elves start to fall in line. One says Theodolph has the world tree's approval, and that's enough for her, while Lumina beams and happily says she wants to go to Brother Theo's village. Other elves murmur that not all humans are monsters, and that Theodolph defies the humans of old. That murmur explodes into conviction, as everyone claims the world tree's blessing as proof. He chokes up as everyone decides to march to his village. A few elves step forward, promising to go because he once helped them. Soon everyone springs into motion, hauling belongings, stuffing trunks, and plotting the route. They count about 100 elves, and Theodolph snaps that moving that many people will take a colossal effort. Realization hits Theodolph. The elves' village lies miles from Arca, so they'll have to haul everyone wagon after wagon, and he cracks a grin, joking they'd give anything for wheels like a truck. Theodolph seizes everyone's attention, lays out the situation in no-nonsense detail, then throws himself into helping the elves pack. They carve out a temporary settlement for them in Arca Village, brutal, backbreaking work, but every task snaps into place without a hitch. Alina's chest tightens with grief as she leaves the place she was born and raised, and Anna snaps to the adult that the last wagon already left. They have to go too. Just as they're about to leave, Alina gasps she forgot something and bolts back to grab it, and Anna leaps in, offering to help. Alina presses her palm to the world tree, whispers a thankful goodbye, and implores the Lumia to keep protecting everyone. She and Theodolph drop into a final bow. A lone wolf suddenly emerges and paces across the empty field. Alina bolts forward, her lightning pace leaving everyone stunned. The group watches the night wind, but Alina sulks, flatly snubbing Theodolph as she turns her face away. Luna rips into Alina for her behavior while the adult fumes, convinced she still dislikes him. Theodolph rushes to calm Alina, insisting she doesn't have to force anything. Then Luna drops a bomb. They're to be spouses, and Theodolph reels at the very idea of marriage. Luna's voice cuts through the silence. The sacred tree's priestess must wed each new village chief, so the moment Alina passes the mantle, she is bound to become the new leader's wife. Cheeks flaming and voices trembling, Alina and Luna steadied themselves and blurted that they'd be ecstatic if the adult accepted them both as his wives. The adult's jaw drops, shock slamming into them as he blurts he'll take them both as his wives. Will that be a problem? Luna leans in and explains how polygamy is woven into the kingdom's customs. Alina, cheeks flaming, insists she had no choice. It's the rule, then reluctantly admits the battle proved she can trust Theodolph. He's rock solid. Adolf froze, jaw slack, as life slammed forward. He'd only wanted to be friends, and suddenly they were ready to marry him. Luna quips she could be another wife, sending Theodolph reeling with confusion. He pleads with her not to joke, then finally admits he understands the doubts. Everything happened so suddenly. The elves decree Theodolph can consider marriage only once everyone knows one another better, yet one mischievous elf blurts out, "Dear husband." The other flushes scarlet, snaps no, and recoils. A mission screen erupts. Elves have become allies. An adult seals the union and thunders the announcement. The narrator booms that the world tree lies mortally wounded, and without it the elves' village would collapse, so every last elf flees to the Arca village, in the final scene. The whole village hoisted their cups and erupted into a thunderous toast, welcoming the elves into their new home. Luna strides forward and, representing the elves, fires off a heartfelt "thank you for being accepted into the village." Murmurs ripple through the crowd, some jab at her outfit, others beam that it's beautiful. Theodolph beams and declares he's thrilled to welcome more guests. Luna, practically bursting with excitement, thanks him again and slips out, "My dear husband," freezing everyone around in stunned silence. Theodolph blurts that no one's being forced, but the villagers swarm him with congratulations, convinced he's married. Panic crawls up his spine as he insists it isn't true while his mind snaps to the elves, custom where the former priestess becomes the new chief's wife. Luna bursts out that she and Alina love him, turning Theodolph crimson. Mortified, he fumbles an excuse and bolts. Theodolph paces the floor, his mind a battleground as he wrestles with marriage and the choice he can't yet make. He finally confesses he fled. There's something real he still has to fix, and Luna swoops in, snapping that every excuse to dodge a situation will only come back to hurt him. A bolt of realization slams into the adult. He remembers one final, crucial task he must complete before the day slips away. Theodolph rips the veil off Tracy de Luna for the whole world, declaring that Illumia entrusted it to him. She urged him to plant the seed where people would see it, so he picked the central square, teeming and drenched in Sunday light. He eyes the seed, white powder clinging like a warning, then tosses caution aside and plants it anyway. He admitted he'd crushed adamantine turtle bones into fertilizer because he'd heard bone powder was good for the soil, then blasted everything with the autocraft sprayer. Luna bursts into surprised laughter. Only he would turn a calamity-class monster into fertilizer when normal people would forge it into weapons or armor, and she grins, saying that the adult never stops surprising her. Luna smirks and jeers. Only a true misfit would call himself normal, and he reels, heart pounding as he wonders if he's really different. Finishing the last sweep of his hoe, Theodolph steps back and roars, "It's ready." Luna declares veggies normally take time and teases he's been spoiled by overnight growth. Then worry creeps in. What if it never sprouts and simply rots? So she steels herself and says that with that soil it might start pushing up shoots as early as the next day. Theodolph's grin steals as he vows to wait, patient and unshakable, until the tree grows. He clings to the hope that if the world tree takes root, the elves' anxiety about the move will melt, and they'll finally feel at home in the new village. Clamping down on worry, the adult begged the tree to hurry, dozed off, then woke to the seed already breaking through the soil. At first light, Alina charges into the room, flings the door wide with a slam and screams, "It's urgent." Theodolph jolts awake and blurts, "What happened?" Alina snaps, "Hurry, come with me now." Theodolph staggered back as the tree shot up into a towering colossus. Smaller than the old world tree, it still thrummed with unmistakable divine energy. Villagers stand rooted, mouths agape. Elves reel, stunned by the tree's jaw-dropping size. They shrug it off and grind back to work, muttering that Lord Theodulf must be behind it. Strange things have trailed him ever since he arrived. Theodulf admits he pushed the tree to sprint skyward and never expected it to grow this fast, while the elves recoil in fear, convinced the humans are already corrupted by his ideas. Illumia materialized before them, hovering and declaring she was just as stunned, and the elves froze. She's the soul of the world tree, meant to be seen or heard only by the divine, so Theodulf's recognition burst out as he shouted her name. Illumia declares anyone can now commune with her, not just the tree's priestesses, because the soil thrums with divine power. The elves surge forward to thank Theodulf, voices ringing with fierce gratitude, then fall silent and bow in reverent awe the moment Illumia steps into the clearing. Eyes blazing, Lumina fires. Am I the world tree? Illumia smiles and confirms. A tiny elf springs forward and proclaims she's the older sister. Illumia vows she'll sprint through growing up so she can be called older sister, too. The elf's mother flushes with embarrassment and apologizes for her daughter's boldness, and Illumia just grins and waves it off, saying it's fine. The elves rush to her, overflowing with gratitude. She shielded them from the poisoned air, and now they can finally speak freely with the world tree. Theodulf's gaze locked on Illumia, ringed by the elves. He beamed, declaring he's happy for her. Illumia said she wanted to speak with the elves, so she poured her power into those who could receive it. Now everyone can step forward and speak to her without holding anything back. The elves pour out thunderous thanks and exalt the adult who welcomed them into the village and opened the sacred path to commune with the world tree. Everyone hoists Theodulf into the air in a roaring celebration, hailing him as the new chief. He goes betread, mortified, and pleads for them to stop. The elves cheered that everyone had anointed Theodulf as both chief and husband. They slam the reminder. It's time to take up their duties as priestesses of the sacred tree, and Alina scrambles to leave the conversation, insisting she must train the soldiers. She relents, answering her sister's desperate plea. Tonight the scene snaps into motion.